Huh?
Well, it's basically there.
What's it?
That still took a bunch of branches down in that neighborhood because my coworker was showing me she usually parks her car on the street, but the branch fell in the street, so she parked in the driveway.
Yeah, on that one.
I mean, like,
Hey, how are you, Larry?
branch. It was huge.
Man, the man,
And I think it's maybe a 3
see you
foot
out
diameter
by at work. Give
fell
it
and
like
missed her
chip.
car by this.
It really is very fascinating.
We've got, I got an estimate, we've got crews coming to trim all of our trees. Because during the derecho last year, we did maybe a lot. These look lumpy coming in here.
The clerk is really short today. I know, right?
Good evening. All microphones are live. All microphones are live.
Thank you.
Beat her down pretty good.
Yes, the solar contract, yes. Ask it as a question. I want to ask, are they using pay for it? Huh? Yeah. Because they did it with the water. I mean, they passed it.
I might be able to help you.
Okay.
Give me some kind of-
I think it's at this size. It'll go. That is. It's totally fine. It'll be fine. Oh, I'll do it.
You know it's 5:30, right?
Thank you. Oh, I ain't got my mic. I would like everyone to stand as the hour has come for us to call the committee of the whole to order. Would you join me with the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Cox. Alderman Gregory.
Here.
Alderman Williams.
Here.
Alderman Rothford. Here. Alderwoman Purchase.
Here.
Alderwoman Notriano.
Here.
Alderman Carlson.
Here.
Alderwoman Conley.
Present.
Alderman Donlin.
Here.
Alderman Hanauer.
Here.
Chair, a quorum is present.
Thank you, Clerk. At this time, we're going to take a recess for 3 to 5 minutes for executive session. You can tell us what it's about?
So we're gonna move to go into, we're looking for a motion to go into executive session pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, exemption 2C2, collective negotiating matters.
So move.
Second. Okay. All right. Be back in 5.
It's good to see you.
Okay, we'll call our committee to hold to come back to order.
So move.
Okay, thank you. I would like to accept a motion for the approval of the June 10th, 2025 committee meeting minutes.
So moved. Second.
Okay. Presentations.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Alderman Donlin. Any presentations?
Yeah, the next one.
No presentation.
No presentation today? Okay. Okay, yeah. We're gonna move on to our ordinances, held. Anybody want to take any?
The next is the CWLP presentation.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I see how you did. Okay, yeah, was it?
Script.
What we're gonna do at this time is have a presentation by CWLP. Director Brown, thank you.
Okay. Appreciate being able to do a committee update here for the utility. Agenda is going to be a quick update on the integrated resource plan, some electric division grants, and then the major portion is spent just on some water division updates. So just real quickly, what is an integrated resource plan? Just for the public, just so they remember what it's for, when we hear them talking about this. It's basically just looking at the various, resources, technologies that, whether it's maybe generation, market purchases, seeing what is available to make, to meet our future energy needs and, be an affordable, diversified, reliable, the key components for that. And then just an acknowledgement of that, the data that's put into it today, it can change, at any point in time in the future, based upon industry market conditions, and so forth. So the last IRP was done in 2020. Just some updates. So we recently applied for a $200,000 grant to cover part of the IRP costs. We expect or hope that we'll hear by the fall, if not sooner, whether we get that or not. We're also researching basically the technologies that go into the IRP, as well as gathering costs that go into the IRP. Researching firms to, who can conduct the IRP. And then the next step then is to then develop the RFP to, select the firm to actually perform the IRP process. Legislation, that wasn't what was kind of what we had talked about in the past a little bit, was that had part of, it was basically the energy omnibus bill. It was a rather large bill, but a part of it had a discussion about the integrated resource plans for municipals and on co-ops. It didn't pass in the regular session, but we think it'll come back in the fall. I think that the co-ops and the municipal utilities made some pretty good progress on with that I say language, and making it more valuable to how utilities actually perform IRPs, and basically that's better for our customers as well. So we'll need to keep an eye on that, and in particular just to make sure that as we proceed going forward with an IRP, that we don't miss anything. That as long as it doesn't change, I think we'll be okay. But if there's changes between now and then that good input it into it, then we need to reevaluate it, make sure that we don't get miss something. So we want the IRP to count towards whatever legislation is passed that's coming up. So talking about grants, so we actually it's pretty good news, and there's an ordinance tonight that actually discusses this, and hopefully it gets approved. But we're going to be awarded $629,000, and the utility would be expected to put in $110,000, almost $111,000, for a total cost of $740,000. And this is to place 40 level 2 chargers in 9 different locations across the city. It's expected to begin in August, and we would complete next year. So this is a great venture into this area, I think, for the city, and especially with the ratio of the award, I think it's worthwhile for the city to pursue this. You know, getting convenient access for EV charging, reducing transportation emissions, and improve sustainability as well. One of the other ones that we have not been awarded this, but we've applied for it. It's the Grid Resiliency Grant. And that is basically to improve the reliability of the electric grid. And we're going to replace circuit breakers, install new reclosers, fuse savers, some switches at a total cost of about $1.6 million. We think that this is looking pretty good for us to get awarded this, and we're hoping to hear by the end of summer that we would receive this. One other thing that's kind of been a little bit more lately here in the last actually week to few days, which is something we've been actually already aware of, but there's another grant called the Energy Transition Grant. And so there's a lot of communities that are applying for this across the state, and we're also doing that as well. And we're looking at trying to get some solar, installations installed as a part of that grant. So hopefully we'll get something applied here. Working on letters of support from other communities that we have to do per the application. So we can get that panned out and move forward on it. But yeah, we are applying for it because I know we had some aldermen, alderwomen asking about that, but I just haven't had time to respond. I've been kind of a busy last 2 days. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Todd to do some water division updates.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to provide a few updates on the Water Division thus far in 2026. So let's start with the hottest of the water industry topics, lead, and some of this I'm going to go over old ground for many of you, but the City of Springfield's water distribution system is like most older water distribution systems in Illinois in that it contains a significant number of lead service lines. Here in Springfield, we estimate that we have about 10,000 lead service lines. That's out of our total of 52,000 lead service lines. So that's about 20% of our system is comprised of lead materials. We stopped putting lead service lines in the ground here in Springfield right about 1930. So for just a second, think about that. So prior to 1930, there was no Lake Springfield. There were no water and power facilities out on Stevenson Drive, Adlai Stevenson Drive. And believe it or not, wait for it, here's my one attempt at humor. That was even before I started in the water industry, right?
Long time.
Yeah, that's right, a long time. So we were early adopters of a lead service line replacement program here at the City of Springfield. We started in 2019. So this was before almost any water utilities throughout the state or nation really envisioned replacing lead service lines. To date, we've replaced about 1,000 lead service lines at a cost of about $12 million. So we've made some significant progress over the years. Today, what's our lead service line program look like? Well, it's really three components. It's a planned replacement component, it's an emergency replacement program, and it's a lead inventory program. So we made significant progress in all three of these areas thus far in 2026. Specifically, we've done 28 planned replacements. Those have all been done out on Yale Boulevard in Ward 2. We are planning on moving over to Capitol Avenue in Ward 3 in the next coming month or so. We respond to the emergency replacements on an as-need basis. We've done about 75 of the 150 budgeted emergency lead service line replacements to date, and we're about 75% the way through our current pothole excavation inventory program. So one of the things I always note is we've been able to undertake that lead service line replacement program at no cost or direct cost to our customers. We've done that through absorbing the city-owned portion of the replacement, so that's from the water main to the curb stopper meter pit at the customer's property line through our Water Division O&M funds. The customer's privately owned portion of the service line has been financed through SRF, IEPA SRF grants, and ARPA grants. So we are planning on submitting another funding nomination sheet for an IEPA SRF grant, another one. This will probably be our last bite at the apple there. That funding, which originates from the bill money at the federal level, is set to expire in about 2 years. So, and as far as I know, there's no additional help in terms of grant money behind that for lead service lines. So that's particularly problematic due to LCRI, so that's lead copper rule improvements. That is a piece of legislation I talked about at the last budget hearing. It was enacted in October of 2024, and basically what it would do, if it is upheld by the courts, is it would require a replacement rate that is double what we anticipated under Illinois House Bill 3739. So you can kind of see that depicted on this graph. So what would LCRI, if fully adopted, mean for us as a water utility? It would mean that we'd have to replace all 10,000 of our lead service lines in a 10-year window. So 1,000 per year at a cost of about $15 million per year. This would be about $150 million to about a $200 million project over its entire life. It would be the single largest capital project I've ever undertaken at the Water Division. So there's a lot more than lead going on at water distribution. It's a busy, busy place. One of the big things we do there every year is water main replacements. So FY26 is no exception. Our biggest replacement efforts are occurring on North Grand. This is a $4.8 million project, and it's being done to accommodate the rail consolidation project. We're also replacing about a mile's worth of main on Color Plant Road, and we're about halfway through that particular project. This fall, we anticipate moving over to MacArthur Avenue and doing or Boulevard, and doing a short quarter-mile replacement on MacArthur Boulevard. Other things going on at water distribution, as I talked about in the budget hearings, we are intending on adding a crew at water distribution. That crew is to assist with the workload in these lead service line replacement efforts. We have ordered all the equipment to outfit that crew. We have initiated the paperwork to hire the employees that would be on that crew. So we're making progress on that. We hope to have that crew fully outfitted and in place this fall. Other items of note, we have been negotiating with the two primary unions on contract negotiations at distribution. OE 965 contract is on your agenda tonight, and we have been making progress with AFSCME 337. Moving over to lake services and water resources. So I'm excited to announce that in April, we received the Illinois section of the American Water Works Association's Source Water Protection Award. So every year this is given to one utility across the state of Illinois that displays exemplary source water protection efforts. So how we do that from year to year is pretty consistent. We do that through matching funds, CWLP funds with grant funding. So currently we're administering 2 grants out in that office. We're in year 5 of a USDA RCPP grant. We do intend on applying for another USDA RCPP grant when this one expires. And then in April, we also received, finally, after much effort, an IEPA 319 grant. So with those 2 grants, those are our primary mechanisms to try to implement conservation farming practices and source water protection best management practices. Other things we're doing at Water Resources, we continue our partnership with UIS on industry-leading blue-green algae research. We have finally reached the end of the repairs in our parks from the Duratio experience. We did all that work with our in-house craft. We continue slowly to march forward on converting all the septics out at the lake into sewer collection. We're about 3/4 of the way there. We've gone back to and we're contributing our fair share to the Lake Lane paving program again. We've put some special attention, O&M attention on the beach house in Center Park. We're working with the homeowners to try to streamline the building permit process of our lake leaseholders. And we've undertaken I guess it's a 5th year of the IRAP program. We have seen significant reduction in deer population out around the lake, albeit maybe not to the extent that most would like to see. All right, at the water purification plant. So we got 2 major capital projects out there this year. The South Fork Pump Station replacement. So these are the original pumps that were installed in 1952 during our drought of record to lift water from the South Fork of the Sangamon River into Lake Springfield during times of low lake level. So those units are still in operation out there at the South Fork Pump Station. We've purchased new units. They are on site, and we've got a construction contract to install those and do some electrical upgrades. We anticipate that starting late summer. This fall, we intend on moving forward on our controls and cybersecurity project out at the plant. This will update all our control system to the most recent version of Ovation, as well as enhance our cybersecurity. We are implementing about a $60,000 energy efficient grant to make our operations as efficient and green as possible. We are in OE 399 negotiations currently. And then I'm also excited to report that we did receive the Illinois section of the American Water Works Association's Water Ambassador Award. So this is for efforts towards industry advocacy and to bring awareness to the industry. All right, despite it being really hot the last 3 or 4 days, it's hard to imagine now that we've been in this heat wave and I'm up here, perspiring, right? It has been a cool, wet, and damp spring and early summer. Water revenues have been off marginally again in FY26, but despite that, we have improved our finances dramatically. So that's allowed us to make 2 reimbursement payments to the corporate fund for the drowning case lawsuit. We still owe about $500,000 to the corporate fund there, and we are currently current with the electric fund. We've made over $3 million worth of payments on the money we owed to the electric fund over the last 12 months. We've also reinstated our pilot program, so we're paying our fair share to the corporate fund in terms of our pilot payment that was suspended for a couple years there. And our cash position is reasonable. Most individuals will say on the finance side that if the finance major, 60 days of cash is good. We're at about 55 days, so we're right there. All right, so my final slide, this was presented numerous times throughout the last few budget hearings, but our intent as we move forward is to try to get our finances in order and all our lead service line programs in order so that we can move forward on a couple major capital projects, the primary one being dredging of Lake Springfield. There's a couple things that could potentially be big hurdles for us initiating that next fiscal year. Those 2 things are where LCRI lands and what our cost obligation is there, and then the Curran-Gardner lawsuit. We like our legal position on the Curran-Gardner lawsuit, but your bonding and your rating agencies don't take quite as optimistic a view when they're issuing you rates for bonds when you have some outstanding legal suits. So that's all I had, unless you had any questions.
Of course.
Yes, we have some questions from some of the alders. First, Alderwoman Purchase.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Todd. You did an excellent job. My first question is starting with page 3, slide 5. That's talking about the level 2 charging stations. So first off, I'm in total agreement with that, and we'll be voting yes. And then number 2, how did you choose your locations? You said it was about 9, I think you said. Mm-hmm. Have you chosen them, or how are you choosing them?
Yeah, they basically, the project manager for that job looked at basically, like I say, travel patterns, looked at the state data for that, and then kind of looked at, like there's placing some downtown,
So Doug, that
And
was
some of the
my-
sites aren't final because they have to go through the Illinois Finance Authority, the IFA, approval, and that's includes like a NEMA process, which is like somebody like SHPO needs to review things and stuff like that. So it's not final, but it's, I think general areas, as downtown's probably a larger concentration, for level twos.
That's one of the reasons why I asked. We had a few associations that have been asking for about a year or two about placing some of the chargers down there. So this will kind of help with that. Now, once you
Right.
do decide that, how are you disseminating that information out to the community?
Well, once we have them finalized, then I would say, we can do a blog, we can issue a media release, those kinds of things. And then, we will come back at some point, now that we know that we're gonna get the grant, is we need to develop a final rate structure, what we would be charging people. So that's something that we'd probably, bring back as an ordinance to do so with, with the council, approval. I'd say just in general, it's probably, it's less than what other chargers are typically, so that's a good thing. But yeah, so we'll be looking at finalizing that and then bring it to council at some later date. We just don't want to invest any time really into it until we knew we got the grant.
Yeah, you didn't want to put the cart before the horse.
Right.
Got you. Then I think slide 6, I spoke with Ms. Amber earlier. Ms. Amber, is this the grant that you said we're going for? I think you had said you hadn't responded back to us.
Oh, yes,
yet.
the energy
Okay.
Transition Grant.
Yes.
That's a different grant
Okay.
than the Energy Resilience Grant.
Got you.
Yeah, that's.
It's a lot going on.
Yes.
My next question goes to page 6, slide 12. That's the federal and state regulations starting in 2027. What's our plan to inform the community when we're talking about $150 million over 10 years?
The LCI.
Well, so currently, that legislation, so LCRI, is being challenged by the leading advocacy and educational organization in the industry, the American Water Works Association. So I don't know that we can really move forward with any more detail than we provided here until we get a final court ruling on where that's going to land.
Okay, well, I would just say, Todd, you guys are doing an awesome job, but when you see these type of numbers, as soon as that hits, we really need to be talking to the community about it, because
Right.
I'm sure you're gonna come back to increase something to help take care of that cost, and don't wanna run into people saying, well, we didn't know, or we didn't see this coming, or this is the future forecast.
Yeah, I think that, once we know more details on that, we would definitely want to come back to the council and have some discussions, and the public too, of course, but, that needs to be some open discussions on how we'll move forward, depending upon what the final result of that, ruling is.
Yes, and then Doug, that raises my antennas up again. So I know that you are pretty good about bringing us information back from the bills that's, being passed at the Capitol or what's coming up. Is there something that we can have Ms. Amber put out just to update people? I know that I felt there was a little bit of tension and concern up here when you were talking about we may have to wait till we see what the results of this bill may be, and I just heard a little concern, but I think if we kind of put it out there hey, this is what's going on right now.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of talking about, was that I think the co-ops and the municipal utilities in general have made some really good progress on that. So not everybody's happy, right? Which
Right.
makes it probably a better thing, if not everybody's happy, right? So there's a lot of compromising going on, but I think that's what works, for the utilities involved, that I don't see there being any issues with proceeding with an RFP really, unless something changes.
Okay,
If something changes, then I can bring that back,
okay.
of course, if I hear something, but,
I feel like some of these answers I know, but I still have to ask.
no, that's, yeah.
Okay. And then
don't mind
my final question is on page 7, slide 13. That seems to be a lot of Ward 5, but I just wanted to double check. It said North Grand 24-inch replacement phase 1 complete, and then phase 2 started today, 4.8 million for all 4 phases. Which part of North Grand is that?
So I think today I think they're in that 9th and North Grand area.
Oh, yeah, that's blocked.
Right,
Been
yeah,
blocked off forever.
right. So,
Okay.
I mean, that one's particularly expensive because it's transmission main, right? It's not just our normal 6-10-inch main. This is our big transmission main on the north end of town, so.
Okay, and then you said you got 4.8 million for all 4 phases. Is that continuing to run down North Grand, in which way? North or?
Yeah, it runs down North Grand towards the rail consolidation project and relocates that, as well as short stretches to the north and the south as you work that direction to accommodate the utilities that are going in, storm sewer and whatnot.
Okay, well, please let me know so I can help get the information out, even if it's on the behalf of Alderman Williams and his area.
Sure.
too.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, yeah.
That's it,
Any more,
Chair.
no more questions, thank God. Okay, Alderman Carlson.
Thank you, Chair. Todd, on page 6, slide 12, I'm just trying to make sure I understand it correctly. We talk about 10 years here, but we still have 20 years to replace the lines, correct? Or did something change?
Something changed. So I got the slide there that shows kind of the projection of what we were building towards, which was to satisfy Illinois State Legislature, House Bill 3739. So under the Illinois state law, we were going to have to replace essentially real close to 500 per year. Under LCRI, the federal rule that rolled out last October, our rate has to double to replace 10% of our inventory, our lead service line inventory per year, or 1,000 lines per year.
I mean, that 20 years was from the state, right?
Yes.
I mean, so again, like we see often, they just move the goalposts on us, obviously.
They did, exactly. That's exactly what happened. And the Illinois EPA, they have to enforce the more stringent of the two rules, whether it's the state rule or the federal rule. So, again, it's being challenged in court. I don't know where it'll land. The thought process by the AWWA is that it's not in conformance with some of the provisions of the Safe Drinking Water Act. And we'll just see where the legal case ends. It's problematic not only for the city of Springfield, but for the water industry as a whole, for sure. Like I said, there's only a couple more years' worth of grant funding available,
That's
so.
the thing, I mean, it's a couple more years of that, and we have half the time to do it.
Right. And at that, it becomes an unfunded mandate.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
They love to do that, so
Yeah.
thank you, Chair.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, sir. Alderwoman Conley.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you guys both for coming, for everyone, the work that you did to put this together. Couple of questions, I'm going to kind of start big and then narrow down on stuff. You mentioned a lot of grants. Are these all state grants that we're applying for currently? Sorry, that's a Doug question.
Yeah, I mean, some of them are a lot of them are state grants that we're doing, but they're getting federal money, you know? I mean, and some of like some of the money that's already been received by them. And then, the energy transition grant is to the DCEO, which I believe that's state
Federally
money.
funded. Okay.
But they could have some federal stuff. I just don't know the ins and outs of that one as well.
What about the grid resilience grant? That was
The what one?
The grid resilience grant?
I believe that's federal, but they were okay with that kind of application though, because it's improving the electric grid and the infrastructure.
Okay, so you haven't had concerns about that at the
No,
federal
not
level?
yet, nope.
Okay, that's good to know. It's not every area wants doing that. And then, okay, now Todd. You mentioned work on MacArthur. What stretch of MacArthur is that work going to be done on?
You know, I had that written down, but it's near Washington Park there. I don't have a cross street for you, but I can get it for you.
And is this being done in coordination with the work that IDOT's planning, or?
I believe so,
So MacArthur's going to be a lot of fun for a while.
yes.
Okay, I feel you. North
Won't be any
Grand.
worse than North Grand, no.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a real high bar right
Yeah,
there.
right.
North Grand has been a lot.
Right.
Okay, that's good to know. I want to give you some big kudos to the whole utility. The septic work being done around the lake is huge. I mean, I think we just, and we did this in the last council. I'm love seeing this moving forward. But the fact that we're removing septic systems from, you know, that proximity to our water supply, I really appreciate that work. I know it's a lot and keeping you busy.
I want to
and-
give some kudos to Public Works too. I mean, they're carrying the brunt of that work too as well, so.
Yeah, Public Works and
They're doing
and Sanitary District deserve equal
I
recognition
think
for sure.
absolutely recognize them all. I mean,
Yep.
that's a really big move, and it's a great way to protect our drinking source, and I really love that. On the flip side, I'm very concerned by the delay in dredging. Because, and I know it's not on the city's hands when the rules change and you look at a, you know, a huge bill coming due. That's concerning. What are your expectations? I mean, I understand you say the current Gardner lawsuit is creating some complications for us, but dredging that lake is something that is a really critical priority. It was a big part of, you know, comfort level with getting the water rate increased, so.
No, we'd like to get a little closer to the finish line on that particular case for sure. And we'd like to get a little firmer understanding of where this LCRI rule is going to land. Doesn't need to be an absolute understanding, but a little firmer understanding of the direction that's going.
We're kind of hoping that within this next 6 months to 12 months period, that we'll know kind of where both are at.
So, but we're looking at, instead of next year, 27, 28?
Well, I don't know that we can say that, possibly, but I don't know that we could say that. You know, we're still hoping that we're able to bond in 27 as we originally proposed and move forward the following year with the dredging effort.
Okay.
But we do have to have a few things go our direction, you know, go
Yeah.
the right way for us to undertake that effort.
Okay, thank you. And I just hope if we could just, we have another quarterly committee meeting for this, you know, a couple of months, but
Right.
just definitely want to keep updates on that. Even if it's just, we have nothing right now, things are paused, but that's,
For sure.
yeah, the dredging, because how long has it been again since we dredged Lake Springfield?
It was in the late 80s?
Yep.
Yep.
I was younger then.
Yeah, right.
Okay, thank you
Yep.
very much. And again, thank you
You're
everyone
welcome.
for your time. Thank you,
Thank
Chair.
you.
Thank you, Alderwoman Notoriano.
Thank you, Chair. My question was also about MacArthur Boulevard. I will say, though, if it's part of the IDOT project, it's probably south of Washington Park,
That's potentially, yeah, I'll have to get you exact place for that.
because that's South Grand to
Right.
like Stanford
Right.
Wabash.
Yep.
But you think somewhere.
Somewhere in that general area,
Okay.
yeah.
That's great. Good to hear. And I have a question. So I recently, you know, I live in one of the areas where I definitely probably have a lead service line. And I recently purchased a water cooler. And it sparked, I was trying to find delivery services, and they're all out of town, like Decatur water or water from like around Lincoln. And so I wondered if it was ever considered, or do we have any contracts to provide water, our water, to citizens who use coolers?
Yeah. You know, that was discussed in concept many, many decades ago, but no, nothing's ever been moved forward on that.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't know what type of investment it would take, but it could be a revenue generator.
Yeah, at one time, can't even remember who proposed it, but proposed to get with one of the local bottlers and go into the bottled water business for ourselves, but nothing ever became of it. Yeah.
Sure. Well, I encourage you to maybe look back, dust that off.
There you go.
And let us know, because I would like to be drinking Springfield water, but I don't know where it's coming from, so.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderman Gregory.
Thank you. Real quickly, so my comments, questions, however that may be, would be on just our lead water line situation.
Okay.
Even if the lawsuit goes whatever way, we still have a plan to replace these lines, correct?
Yeah, we're all in conformance and on board with we're gonna replace all the lead service lines. It's just a matter of how fast can we do it and how fast, is not, what is our capability? What is the limit of our both financial and our workforce capacity? I'm particularly concerned on the private side that the private plumbing contractors can keep up with our crews.
Right. Okay. So when you said we just started these in 2019, so are we
Yes.
saying we've never replaced lead service lines over in the past? And can you expound on why that's important for our people? Because I know we talk about money, we talk about work, but we haven't talked about the effects or could be to the people who are drinking that water, and
Right.
why we even have to even think about things like this. And I would assume we do something to our water to ensure that it's clean as possible, even while
Right,
going through lead
yeah,
pipes.
so, the lead service lines, at least in Springfield, right, don't create a health concern. We've recently completed round one of our sampling, 100 samples, and all the samples were good, right? So they're all high-quality stuff, and these are all Tier 1 full lead service lines. Where the industry ran into trouble were issues like Flint, Michigan, where the treatment changed, the water became more corrosive, and leached lead service line material into the water supply, right? So their treatment wasn't stable. But we do a lime softening treatment process that produces a passive water, produces a coating on the inside of the lead service line. So as long as they're not disturbed, we're good in terms of water quality. We don't really, we don't have a lead issue in the water.
Okay.
So, although we want to replace them, we know it's time to get the lead out. There's no immediate or any health concern, so.
Okay. All right, I appreciate you. I just, I echo my statements, that's important to me. It's important to getting those changed out, especially in Ward 2. Because if we don't have any lead pipes at all, I would assume that some of the products we use, we won't have to, and it'll reduce costs.
I'm not sure I followed that. Can
With
you
something
repeat
like the
that?
lime that you said, will we have to use that anymore if none of
No,
us
we'll
have
keep
lead pipes?
our treatment plant, or our treatment consistent, and that's a key for a variety of things, right? You change your treatment, and it can create a variety of issues in your water heater and things like that. So we put a lot of time and effort doing hundreds of thousands of tests at the treatment plant every year, just to make sure that the product we're producing is consistent and it's scale forming.
Okay. So I guess my question is, once we replace these, and we have no, for instance, in Ward 2 or anywhere in our city, if we didn't have lead pipes, what are some of the things that we wouldn't have to do anymore?
There would be nothing that you wouldn't have to do,
You'll still do
because,
the same?
you've got premise plumbing, whether they're fixtures or anything else with inside an individual privately owned home that we don't have control of, and we have no idea what the materials are. So we still have to take the same high-level protective approach regardless of whether there are 0 lead service lines in Springfield or 10,000.
All right, thank you, sir, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Alderman. So, my question is, well, they're similar. So, pertaining to citizens and citizens' costs, during budget time, I thought I recalled that the department's going to be looking for grants that maybe would assist the citizens on their side for the cost, whether it's the lead faucet and the stuff in the house, or in particular, connecting to the main, on their property to come up.
Yeah,
to connect.
the only one that I've got any expertise with is the portion of the private line that runs from the property line, curb stop, or meter pit, within a foot or two inside the basement of the house, right? And so those are the grants that we pursued these last 6 years, and like I said, I think we have one more opportunity to submit a funding opportunity through the IEPA's SRF program, and to get one more grant. And then that bill money, that I think it was $15 billion worth of money was available nationally for lead replacement. That will be done. It was just a 5-year program, and as far as I know, there's no intent to back fund that after that program expires. We're hopeful that it will. We're hoping that some of those issues will resolve themselves with additional federal or state funding, but there's nothing that I know of that's out there currently behind this.
Yeah, I think we all are, but it is a concern because, probably all of our wards, people just can't afford it. And they won't be able to afford it unless the state, the feds, or city, somebody's got to help out. Hopefully some grants materialize and some other things come with as the mandates gets closer and we do our part and get to the front of their property.
Right.
But then the assistance that's going to be needed to connect. So hopefully we can get some more opportunities.
Yeah, all I can do is assure you that we'll be out there on the front lines, pounding the table for it in Washington and other places, and
Sure.
hopefully we can find some more funding, but to my knowledge, and we're pretty up to speed on this stuff, that money's not out there after the next 2 years.
Well, you got your cut out for,
Yeah.
work cut out for
Any
you.
help that anybody can apply to the federal legislators to push some more money towards that program would be an amazing help, but it just seems like it's kind of falling on deaf ears right now.
Yes, it is.
And it has been for quite some time, I think, but it seems like the last couple of years, we've been pushing to try to extend it, do something, and nobody really wants to talk about it for the most part. It seems like that's already been dealt with, and it hasn't.
Okay.
So,
And then, just thinking back on, we was looking at some of the slides talking about costs, I wanted to know if CWOP was going to pass the solar costs from this solar piece that we're doing, the solar contract costs on as a fuel adjustment to the ratepayers.
yeah, anything that we do as a purchase power, it goes through fuel adjustment.
So they will.
If it's capacity, if it's purchase power, or anything like that, is all through fuel adjustment.
Do you have any kind of costs, like what the amount monthly would be?
So what it does is instead of buying from the market,
Yeah.
we're buying it from the PPA. So that in itself, then there's no way to say, okay, well, it's this much money on the fuel adjustment for that particular piece, compared to the market. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's no additional, if the market goes up, we're saving money. If the market goes way down, then we're gonna be costing the customers
Yeah,
money.
so
But
we did
that's
some-
part of the hedging that has to happen to make sure rates are pretty stable. You don't want to be stuck in the market for too long with the way rates can fluctuate.
Is that how we did when? I remember.
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
Pretty
Mhm.
much the same. So
Yes.
that's just kind of a general rule using, that's what fuel adjustment is.
That's what fuel adjustment is,
Okay.
yes.
So we have, 4 people, I think, to speak for this issue only that signed up for it. I just want to let you know that you can only speak once. So it's your choice if you want to speak now toward this issues that we're talking, or wait and speak later, if any of you guys, Madam Clerk, if you'll call some names and we'll see.
Mr. Chair.
Well, he's late. Go ahead, Alderman Donlin.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Real quick, Todd, do you have a way of knowing the percentage or even the number of residences that have the lead problem between the pit and the houses?
Generally, in Springfield, that is a galvanized line.
Yeah.
So it's not a lead line. Typically, if a lead service line went in, it was lead from the main to the property line and galvanized on into the house. But under all the rules, both the state and the federal rules, any galvanized that's downstream of lead is treated as lead. So we have to treat it the same.
So that number would be high, or higher, it would be actually high.
It'd be about the same. I mean, we do come across specific different locations where the lead service line was replaced, but the galvanized wasn't, and we have to just replace the galvanized, things like that. So there's some oddities in it, but yeah, it's generally the same number, the same 10,000.
A friend of mine, I won't say his name, he used to sit on this council, HVAC guy. He said, he told me that the number of galvanized lead pipes from the pit to the house isn't as high as you would think.
I mean, we do find installations where the homeowners had a leak right on their private side of the service line, and they've gone ahead and replaced that with PEX, or they replaced it with copper or something like that. And then they don't have to replace that, we just have to replace our side. So there are some partials like that are involved, and it's not an inconsequential number, but again, we look at them all in the same, that 10,000 basket includes all of those
Like the chair
types of
said, it's not
situations.
cheap. It's not
Right.
expensive.
I mean, that would have your cost right there, right? But for that particular
And then-
line.
And then finally, Mr. Chair, if I can, you alluded to the fact that, changing the, I'll say, treatment of the water would have, could potentially impact the inside, like dishwashers, washing machines and so forth.
Right.
Is that what happened in Chatham a few years ago?
Yeah, it was a water chemistry issue, right? Their water chemistry that they're producing is different than ours, and it has unwanted effects
We don't want
on a
that.
variety of things, right? So that's why we put so much emphasis on trying to maintain, a high-quality, consistent product throughout the distribution system.
Thank you for that clarification. That's it, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the opportunity.
Anybody else?
Sorry, Chair, you just reminded me, thank you, Alderman Donelan. Todd,
Here to
have you
help.
seen any sort of leveling off of the costs of our treatment chemicals?
Mildly, yeah. They still are going up, but not at the rate that they once were.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess, what we've gotten accustomed to, just as an industry, for all those commodities is like 5% per year. It's basically double the rate of inflation. And we're back down close to that, 5, 6, 7%, something like that. We're not seeing the 20% jumps or 25% jumps we were seeing immediately post-COVID.
Thank you.
Yep.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Madam Clerk?
I have Kathleen Campbell.
Good evening. I speak to you tonight about the proposed characterization well for the Prairie Research Institute sequestration pilot with CWLP. My name is Dr. Kathleen Campbell. I'm Professor Emeritus and Distinguished Scholar at SIU School of Medicine, where I've spent over 30 years researching toxicology and pharmacology. But tonight I appear as a private citizen, a resident of Glenarm, Illinois, and I live just 5 miles from the proposed characterization well site. I urge you to postpone and preferably reconsider the installation of this well. There are safety and environmental risks. Although we are not CWLP customers, my neighbors and I are expected to bear the risk of future CO2 sequestration projects. Experience tells us those risks are real. The ADM Class 6 monitoring wells in Illinois leaked within a few years. Once CO2 is injected, we cannot control where it spreads or whether it stays contained. Our community should not be a test case for an experiment with uncertain and potentially dangerous outcomes. There is a financial risk to the city. The characterization well is reported being funded by federal research grants through the Prairie Research Institute. However, such university grants, particularly environmental and geologic, are currently being canceled mid-project, and in some cases, clawbacks are occurring. If funding collapses after you begin, CWLP and the city of Springfield may be left holding the bag for completion, remediation, plugging, and/or abandonment and possible fines. Is that a risk we taxpayers should bear? There's a lack of pipeline infrastructure. Installing a characterization well makes no sense if there is no safe or publicly acceptable CO2 pipeline route to the site intended for permanent sequestration. Despite PRI's small-scale pilot data of using CO2 for algae or cement, both are unproven and neither are ready to be deployed at scale. The real intent here is long-term sequestration, which requires CO2 pipelines. Let's be honest about that. And let's be clear, there is no safe pipeline route. Any realistic path, which looks like roughly 15 to 20 miles, would likely run under or near Lake Springfield, through highly populated areas, or alongside I-55. None of these routes are acceptable. The public deserves complete transparency about the CO2 pipeline plans, including complete routing, before a characterization well is approved, not after. There is proven and widespread public opposition to this. The resistance to CO2 pipelines in Illinois is organized, informed, and determined. I serve as president of Citizens Against Heartland Greenwashing Projects, a grassroots landowner organization with hundreds of members. We are part of the much larger Coalition to Stop CO2 Pipelines with 14 member groups. I personally have served as a fact witness at the ICC, emphasizing safety in every Illinois CO2 pipeline case before the ICC to date. Navigator's Heartland Greenway project collapsed after spending untold millions securing less than 6% voluntary easements in Sangamon County. The Wolf Carbon Solutions project also withdrew in both Illinois and in Iowa. The Sangamon County-sponsored public meeting regarding the Navigator Heartland Greenway pipeline in this very county on July 17, 2023, drew nearly 500 residents, no buses, just neighbors, all in yellow, a sea of resistance. The broader policy trends show that Illinois is not alone. South Dakota and Minnesota have already banned eminent domain for CO2 pipelines. Iowa passed a similar bill, though vetoed by the governor. The legislature is now trying to override. The momentum is against CO2 pipeline coercion. Springfield should not invest in infrastructure whose future is uncertain, unsafe, and politically untenable. There is a better path forward. My husband and I have lived here since 1988, and we do care deeply about this community. We're not your adversaries. We're your neighbors, your allies, your resources. Sangamon County passed resolutions against the Navigator pipeline after reviewing the facts. We invite CWP and the council to do the same. Let us work with you, not against you, to protect our shared home. Please reconsider this characterization well. Our land, our safety, and our future do depend on your decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Next person is Rick Graydon.
My name is Rick Graydon. I'm a rural homeowner, property owner in Sangamon County. My spouse and I also own land, farmland in Montgomery County. One of the properties that we're responsible for maintaining and overseeing is a farm that's been in the Graydon family for over 170 years. I was raised on that farm. I became a member of the Citizens Against Heartland Greenwashing Project when it appeared we would be forced to accept CO2 and sequestration of CO2 in Montgomery County. I'm not a customer of CWLP, but I'm here to vocalize the negative experience that I and my Montgomery County neighbors endured with the CO2 sequestration test well, also known as a characterization well. The characterization well was drilled about 1.25 miles from the farm where I was raised. Heartland Greenway HG Carbon Storage submitted an application for approval for drilling the characterization well to the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, IDNR. IDNR finally approved the HG Carbon Storage drilling permit after several revisions, submissions, and corrections to the application. For some reason, HG Carbon Storage determined the characterization well would be drilled about 200 feet from the front door of a young family with 4 children. And to make matters worse, this young family was expecting another child. The young family were told the drilling would be conducted 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and the drilling would only last 2 months. There were constant engine noises from generators, pipe banging, backup beepers, heavy equipment noises 24/7, including numerous semi-tankers coming and going around the clock delivering water for the drilling process. The 24/7 drilling required nighttime lighting. The lights were so bright the young family had to purchase special window blinds attempting to block the very bright lights. Neighbors 6 miles away could see the annoying bright lights. And the drilling lasted 3 months, not 2 months. And by the way, the young family brought a newborn home during this drilling fiasco. Some of the supplies and equipment delivered to the drill site exceeded the county road weight limits. Those heavy delivery trucks required permission of the county highway superintendent. Several trucks parked on the county road when unloading, causing safety concerns in the neighborhood on the busy traveled thoroughfare. HG Carbon Storage used so much water during the drilling process that our school had to shut down and surrounding homes were left dry due to lack of water pressure until we asked them to haul water in from a different source. We were told that the well was drilled to a depth of about 7,000 feet. We assume HG Carbon Storage or whomever gathered the data and information they needed. Equipment and supplies were finally removed from the site, but the wellhead remained. IDNR regulations require the characterization well to be sealed within 30 days of drilling completion. Drilling was complete on July 26, 2023. On November 29, 2023, IDNR notified HG Carbon Storage LLC that it had violated the IDNR regulation of not timely sealing the well. HG Carbon Storage was assessed $1,000 per day each day it violated the regulation. And all the while, there was no maintenance completed at the site. Weeds were allowed to grow. The site was abandoned. HG Carbon Storage withdrew its intent to transport by pipeline and sequester carbon dioxide in Montgomery County and abruptly walked away from the characterization well. Eventually, a different company arrived on the site and the wellhead was removed and the well was sealed on or about October 30th, 2024. I don't know who paid for sealing the well. I sure hope it wasn't Illinois taxpayers. The total amount of fees and fines assessed amount to around $450,000. I don't know if they were paid. Now we have a 7,000-foot deep hole in the earth passing through several geological layers, and the hole is only 1.25 miles from the family farm that we hope is productive for several hundreds of years for the Graydon family. To the best of my knowledge, there's no scientific data available to indicate that the steel pipe and cement plug that remained in this 7,000-foot deep hole will withstand exposure to the saltwater brine in the sandstone layer. All indication, since the ADM wells are leaking, is the steel pipe will eventually dissolve and there will be a direct pathway from the sandstone layer to the surface of the earth for saltwater brine and any other unknown contaminants to travel. This pathway may allow contaminants to travel from the subsurface to the surface and vice versa. Thank you for allowing me to make the comments.
Thank you. Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
Donald Hanrahan.
Good evening, people. I'm glad to be up here to address you the first time. I have a,
I'm sorry, we called up Donald Hanrahan.
Is it too down?
That's okay. Sorry about that.
All right. Thank you. I'm Don Hanrahan. I wanted to point out that the last IRP was completed in May of 2019, not 2020. So it's 6 years ago, not 5 years ago. And one of the provisions of the original IRP was that it be repeated within 5 years. So we're a year out of date here. So I agree with Mr. Brown's characterization of the synopsis he gave of the legislative session regarding House Bill 5021, which is the Municipal Utilities Transparency Act. Our IRP was held up kind of waiting to see whether that was going to happen or not. And it's time to move forward. I'm glad to hear that we are moving forward. One thing that I wanted to comment about, though, is that the agreed language between all the different players, including the Municipal Utilities Association and the environmental groups, he's right. Not everybody's happy, but it's a bill that everybody can get behind. And I think that it just came too late. It's probably going to pass in the fall. That means that our IRP that we're starting to work on now should consider all of the factors that are included in that bill for what the IRP should include. That's just very prudent. Proceed with the IRP, but with the knowledge that HB 5021 may well pass. Furthermore, I noticed in reading that bill, the provisions are pretty well articulated, the kinds of information that are needed by this council to make determinations of where our utility is going to go in the future. They don't specify how you're going to get there, but it is the law that by 2045, we're done with coal, right? So we have to, that's 20 years. It sounds like a long time, but it's not in the scheme of things. And we have to get busy to do this. The thing that I want to emphasize most is that the bill prescribes simply a minimal amount or a minimum of what public involvement is. And it's actually a little bit more than what we did the last time. So there are at least 2 public meetings. They have to have notice given to all the ratepayers. Those kinds of things need to be adhered to when we're proceeding with this. And the council needs to be kept informed of who the proposed experts are that are going to do this plan. We need people who are independent. There's a lot of detail that's required in these IRPs, but understand what the goal is. The goal is to give you, the deciders, and the public the information that we don't have now to help make decisions about what our utility future is going to be. We've got a huge debt sitting out there that's got to get retired. They've got to consider what has been generated in the past, what the demand was, what the requirements were, what the capacity factor of our current Dolman 4 is, what the capacity factor is if we built out a solar array. All of those things have to be considered, and we have to figure out how we're going to put it all together. Can Dolman 4 be a peaker plant, for example? There's all these things that come together, and it behooves the council to assure that any plan tracks the requirements of that bill, and to do another one as soon as we can. Other than that, there's other issues that were not addressed in this public utilities meeting. First of all, can we have a real meeting sometime where there's some kind of training perhaps on educating the public? How does this utility run? You know, it would be real helpful. Can we have a meeting where the public can ask questions and get answers back? What's the status of the gas study? When is the carbon capture system going to go operational? And I had questions about the characterization well too, but my time is up. Thank you.
Thank you. I thought we took our turn, but Alderwoman Purchase.
Yes, I just wanted to respond back to Don. I spoke with Ms. Amber earlier today, and when Ms. Deb was up here to ask about that dialogue with the community for the Q&A, so we are working on that, and just wanted to let you know, preparing for timing, just asking when can that be done. I think you were here for that meeting. I had asked Ms. Deb, can we do a meeting like twice a year to give those updates and have that dialogue? So I just wanted to let you know that we hear you, and we are asking about it too, and they are being very responsive as well.
Thank you, Alderwoman. That actually, that was on my mind as well. I do know there's segments of the public that say you do it as a presentation and you close us out. I did make the decision as chair to let those who did sign up specifically speak, but then they say that sends us all the way back to they just come up and make comments. They really ain't participating like the public is asking. I do see improvement. It is slow, and I do think we're going to get there to where we have the kind of meetings that you guys want, where there can be a lot more interactiveness, and it's just going to take time, but I do see improvements. Is there any more signed up?
Bob Croteau. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Is that it for now? Okay, the rest are going to speak at the end. We'll move forward with our committee as a whole. We have ordinances tabled or remaining in committee. I'm to understand that they're still going to be held. Thank you. Okay. Since there's no action on those, we'll just move on, Madam Clerk, to ordinances for committee consideration.
Okay. CWLP 2025-253. An ordinance accepting bids and authorizing contract UW 26-05-19 crushed stone for shoreline stabilization with Crown Trucking Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $170,900 for the Office of Public Utilities.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
One moment.
Okay. Take your time. He's showing up. The hard copy if we can. We can. They can't get it, we can go off the hard copy.
We're good.
Okay,
Okay.
here it goes. You can-
Sorry about that.
No problem.
All right, 2025-254. An ordinance accepting bids and authorizing contract UE 26-04-08 VM Cloud Backup Subscription, 3 years with Matrix Systems Group Incorporated, in an amount not to exceed $306,902.16 for the Office of Public Utilities.
Move consent.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
All right, 2025-255, an ordinance accepting and authorizing the execution of proposal number UW 26-07 with J. Oros Environmental Incorporated for a 3-year term in the amount not to exceed $6,181,981.83 for the removal and beneficial reuse of filter plant lime material produced by the water purification plant for the Office of Public Utilities.
Move for consent.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
2025-256, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of reconditioned transformers from various selected vendors for a 2-year time frame in an amount not to exceed $750,000 for the Office of Public Utilities.
Move consent.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
2025-257, an ordinance approving payment to Troxel and Company in an amount not to exceed $4,300,000 for a property insurance policy for 40 City of Springfield properties for a 1-year term for the Office of Public Utilities.
Move for consent.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
2025-258, an ordinance accepts and authorizes the execution of Illinois Finance Authority's Community Charging and Fueling Infrastructure Grant, Subgrantee Opportunity Agreement in the amount of $629,064, a supplemental appropriation in an amount not to exceed $740,000, and to accept and authorize proposal UE 23-18 with Hanson Professional Services for the design, purchase, and installation of electric vehicle charging stations in an amount not to exceed $740,000 for the Office of Public Utilities.
Move to consent.
Second.
Been properly moved and second to consent. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Public Works, 2025-259, an ordinance authorizing supplemental relocation expenses in an amount not to exceed $5,352.74 for the relocation of occupants and personal property located on parcel SR 0135, 709 Barrett Street, relating to the Springfield Rail Improvements Projects for the Office of Public Works.
Consent.
Second.
Been properly moved and second to send this on to consent. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
2025-260, an ordinance regarding the variance request for Section 153.157L pertaining to the restriction of access to an arterial street for Panther Creek West for the Office of Public Works.
Move to consent.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second for consent. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
2025-261, an ordinance approving the location and sketch map of Panther Creek West for the Office of Public Works.
Move to consent.
Second.
Been properly moved and second for consent. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
2025-262, an ordinance authorizing the execution of contract number PW 26-04-09 for construction with Johnco Construction Incorporated of Old State Capitol pedestrian access in an amount not to exceed $468,000 for the Office of Public Works.
Move for consent.
Been properly moved and second for consent. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
General City Business, 2025-263, an ordinance to increase the number of Class D liquor licenses by one for Vondra Social House Incorporated, doing business as Vondra Social House, located at 724 East Edwards.
Move to consent.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second for consent. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
2025-264, an ordinance establishing the SHA Tax Increments Financing Neighborhood Improvement Grant Program.
Motion for consent.
Move to debate.
Second.
Properly moved and second for debate. Any discussion?
Yes.
Alderman Gregory.
Yes. First of all, this on it, Clerk Corporation Council, I did send a note to ensure that Alderman Williams was a sponsor on this, as well as both of our wards do encompass both of these TIFs. We brought this particular match, and I'll speak for my ward, and others can speak for theirs. But you know, when I look at our system, we have still 2,900 residential complaints logged. There's still a need for access for homeowners as well as businesses. You know, we seen a 2016 report on the disparities. We've seen a 2025 report on the disparities. It's perfectly legal under the TIF law. In fact, there is language directly within that body of language that points to the importance of the investments in the most economically challenged areas that lack private investment. 2,900 residential situations in our ward. Do y'all know that's 3 times more than any other wards, and that's not a shot to anyone's wards. Those are just facts. There's no one with over 1,000, and I'm sitting with 2,900. So we have to be aggressive in our goal to clean up this particular area. I will say there has been discussions for other TIF areas once that has been worked out as far as their balance. The program is we've already made adjustments to it down to 10%, and 25% for our high gross earners. There's been other moves in the SHI Pillsbury TIF. And I hope that next week we can support the two aldermen who actually represent the area making the decision on the TIF as well of what we should do. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderwoman Conley.
Thank you, Chair. Alderman Gregory, I just want to thank you for bringing this forward. I know we've talked about in the past your frustration that those TIFs actually have balances that need to get spent and ways to get the monies out there. So I just want to thank you for bringing this forward. It's an interesting proposal, and looking forward to it. I did want to mention,
Absolutely.
I was meeting with Planning and Economic Development about the citywide exterior rehab program and making some changes to that and kind of bringing it into line with other things. And I will say, Julia mentioned that, you know, even with the cannabis grants, there is a waiting list constantly for people to get access to these funds to repair their homes, and, you know, with the timing of that. So we were even talking about, you know, expanding that citywide program, which I think still should go forward. But no, I think this is great, and I'm looking forward to, you know, hopefully spending down that TIF fund in ways that bring these neighborhoods up.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Alderwoman Purchase.
Thank you, Chair. Alderman Gregory had just mentioned something about like the balances. I wanted to ask, who do I request that from? Is that from OPID or Corporation Counsel or Director Ramona? Okay, well, if you want to, you don't have to at the moment, but if you can get it to all of us to just share what the balance is, especially with it being on motion for debate, just to know what the balances is that sits in all of the TIFs. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderwoman Notoriano.
Thank you, Chair. I'm in support of this ordinance. I agree with the sponsor that, yeah, there's a big balance, and we need to do whatever we can to get the folks who need these funds access to these funds. And I would love to hear from my colleagues who put this on debate what their objections might be. And I would also just like to highlight how a few items back, we approved a new development at Panther Creek. That's private investment. That's where the money's going.
It's not city money, though. It's
Okay,
private
but
money.
that's where the money's going.
Because
Ho. Just put your light on, Alderwoman. I'll be glad to recognize you, but right now, Alderwoman Notoriano has the floor.
So what I'm saying is, private investment, we see it every week. We just saw it a few ordinances back. Private investment is happening in the west. It's not happening on the east side. There are homeowners and business owners on the east side who want to stay on the east side and want to improve their businesses or homes. They should have access to the money meant to help improve their businesses and homes. And I would love to hear the objections to that. That's what this is for. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderman Gregory?
No, ditto, Alderwoman, I totally agree with you. You know, we passed a $2.9 million grant, and one of the other aldermen, Ward 7, went to consent, and we had to put it on debate just to ask some simple questions. But, you know, now that it's something for the economically depressed area, I expected that from that alderman. So let's just keep moving, and you know, I just hope next week we can pass this something good for the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Hanauer.
Well, first of all, there's a big difference between private money and tax money. Big difference. People are putting it out, putting their rear ends on the line by doing that, by developing. They get zero. We get zero economic incentive. Zero. But we pay the highest taxes. I don't disagree that we should be developing wherever. But you can only do, you know, people are going to develop where they want to develop. Now, we provided a lot of money to the east side, to downtown. I bet you, and I'm asking if we can get Ramona in the next week or two to come forward with some type of report so we can see what kind of grants that we've given to the whole city. And you're going to find out that this narrative that the west side gets everything is absolutely false. It's absolutely false. But to say that a private person that's putting their money down is stealing from the east side or taking away from the east side, which has been the narrative for months now, is absolutely false. They can take their money. If they don't want to invest in Springfield, we ought to thank God they're investing in Springfield. They could go to Chatham, Rochester, they could go wherever they want. And guess what? They're investing, we're paying the we're benefiting from all the taxes because they don't get any tax breaks. And that's how we're able to fund the places, the things that we've done. You know, just look at the water situation. I believe that the areas that the water lead lines were put in that have been being used, you guys didn't vote for it. We carried the water for it, literally. But you guys are the ones that benefit. Out west, we get zero benefits. But guess what? We're paying the taxes for it. We're paying the rates for it. So don't say that we just passed something that it's not even apples to apples. It's not even close to that. So I'm sorry, but there's no comparison between the Panther Creek project, that's a private project, and what we're talking here. No comparison. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Grady.
Well, can I ask you, Alderman Hanover, what is your druthers with this particular project? And my only question would, since this funding is for a specific area, and we only can get it by counting blight and you know, going through that whole process in that area, shouldn't they get to use that money to redevelop the area, sir?
Well, I've got questions regarding the TIF rules on it. I haven't had a chance to research it. Okay. So
well, I show you that.
I have the right to do that.
Oh,
you
yes.
guys have put
Yes,
things on debate,
yes, sir.
you know, without any explanation.
Absolutely.
I don't think it's any different than this. So
Okay, no problem. I thank you for your explanation. I would assure you that everything within this falls within the TIF guidelines. There is no match at the state law. I did cross-reference it not only with Corporation Counsel, but also other outside lawyers and specialists, you know, on the state law TIF program for those particular areas. Mr. Ramona, when you, or economic development, when you also do that, can you tell me also the expiration dates of those particular ones? Because if I'm thinking, the Madison Park, the Far East TIF would expire 2030, and the SHA Madison Park Place TIF would expire 2034, giving both of those another $3 million more or so. And all I'm saying is that when these things come across, we just want to be treated fairly. Last week we had it's in my ward too, $2.9 million TIF out of the downtown that has no money. And there was very little questioning, Ralph. You didn't go check the TIF to make sure that it was legal. So that's where I get a little like, man, dang, you know, why the different treatment, you know? And that's where all I'm coming from is private investment. I hear your argument. I don't think the Alderwoman was saying that, but there is a difference when we go to do things for the different demographics of people. We just seen it. Alderman Carlson jumped out there. We hadn't even finished reading the message, any motion for consent. I had to put it on debate because one, it's in my ward, and I had some questions. and some things that I hope that developer would do with minority hiring. He answered those questions beautifully. We put it back on consent. We passed it. But now that we have something for money that only can be used in the far east TIF area, I'm back at a 20-minute conversation. Isn't that unfair? Isn't that a little suspect? I get it. We're doing it on the east side. We're trying to be creative. We're trying to do plans. There's somebody somewhere that doesn't like that. I get that. But don't be part of that route. Because when we leave from here, we all gonna be friends. And I'm sorry, I can't laugh and giggle when we're trying to improve the lives of people. And some people will say, well, you know, people got to do, but I agree with that. And we push that, we live that, we try to live by example in some areas. But it's a very complex issue as well. And we didn't get here overnight. We didn't ask to be in this situation. There were some tragic events in this city that helped to that. I think we all agree with that. And, you know, I think we have a responsibility as a council. I definitely have a responsibility as the Ward 2 alderman to do all that I can to reverse, you know, decades of neglect and some unfortunate things that happen in our city. And that's all we're trying to do. And so I appreciate the discussion. I appreciate your explanation, and I hope you accept mine. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderwoman Toriano.
Thank you, Chair. So this question is probably for Corporation Counsel. So in order to create a TIF district, what kind of requirements need to be met?
So you need to find a blighted area, and there's criteria listed out in the state statute. We usually use TIF consultants to create a TIF boundary that establishes those blight conditions. We then pass an ordinance, and your TIF lasts for 23 years, where it sets the, it takes what the EAV is at the time. Any increase in that gets reinvested into the TIF over those 23 years. But you can only create a TIF if there's a blighted area.
Thank you. So that really makes the point that I was trying to make when talking about the development in Panther Creek. That's where the private money is going. It's not going to Madison Park Place area or other East Side areas. That's why we have the TIF, because the private money has fled. So if there are individuals who own businesses and own homes in these TIF districts and want to reinvest in their businesses or homes, who are any of us to deny them that? That's not how we operate. Like, if a zoning issue comes up, we don't usually pick out other people's wards and say, you know, I really don't think that person should have that pool. No, you let the neighborhood decide. You let the ward decide. You let the TIF area decide. I know it's taxpayer money. It's that area's taxpayer money. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Alderman Donovan.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm not going to get involved in that conversation, but I did want to address the ordinance itself. When I read these two ordinances, Alderman, a few years ago, it brought to mind, you and I didn't talk about this recently, but you and I had multiple in-depth discussions about the need for making sure that the individuals / businesses in these TIF areas, not just these two, but have a clear access to money, and they can reinvest in their houses. And I think the example you and I discussed, probably ad nauseum, dealt with roofs, windows, you know, basic things that not everybody has the ability to afford. And the way I read these ordinances, these two ordinances, is it's meant to focus the TIFs. Now, obviously, it has to comply with laws and the plan and all that fun stuff, but focus the TIFs on getting the money to where it needs to be as fast as possible, because we don't want to. What's always irritated me is Springfield is guilty, it has been guilty generations ago, in the downtown TIF, and I'm not picking on your area, but it's just the oldest TIF, where we just we were giving flat grants and not having, you know, the owners have a
Accountability.
vested interest in the projects, and that's a philosophy that goes back a long time ago. I'll get off that topic, but I absolutely think that I applaud the efforts to focus the efforts on economic developments in the areas that this money can only be used for. And if nothing more, the way I read it is more of a marketing promotion of the opportunities that may exist in these TIF districts.
Yes.
And I think we might have done something creative and similar in Enos Park a couple of times, and in your ward, Alderwoman. And I don't, I mean, we should ask for the reports, but I don't know if we've gotten the metrics to kind of measure how successful or not. I mean, because, you know, somebody asked years ago, and I've been around a while now, they asked me, you know, well, what do you do if in a TIF district someone builds a new garage? Or that's what you want, because it adds to the tax rolls, adds to the increment, adds to the reinvestment in the area. There's a lot of things that could be done, and they're powerful. This is really the only tool a downstate municipality has control of the setup. And correct it doesn't have to be technically blighted. It can be conservation, and there's a technical term. In other words, the area has to qualify. It has to qualify. There's a couple different ways. Anyway, I appreciate the discussion. I don't care if it lasts 2 hours. As long as we're talking about it and we're being open about it, why is that a bad thing? So anyway, I just had to say my 2 cents. If you want to talk about it offline, any of the sponsors love to do so. But the way I read it is it was refocusing the TIFs, making sure that people understand that their money will be available. And sure, people invest in your, not as much my area as your area, and I got a problem with that. But anyway, we will work on that. But I mean, we shouldn't and don't control where private investment goes. We have some influence when we have some incentives like this. So anyway, I digress, but thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We'll hear from Alderwoman Purchase.
Thank you, Chair. So I would ask, Alderman Donilon brought up a good point, but as we know, just full disclaimer that I cannot really participate in my own TIF anymore in Enos Park with me living there and having property. But I would ask that Director Amy, if you can bring some of those stats forward that Alderman Donilon talked about. In the previous administration, there was a time that I had brought something forward for Enos Park, and we did all agree on it. It was like pulling teeth because I got Ralph and Chuck, but they all came in and explained what it was that we were trying to do and how we moved forward. And I just think sometimes education and breaking down what's going on, especially with us renewing the TIF. I had just came in and had got our TIF renewed for another, I think, 23-year life or something. But I would like for Director Amy, if you could bring in and just break down and educate how this works and where we're at, because like Alderman Gregory said too, there's only so many years left on these TIFs, and the same thing with downtown, just even talking about that. There's so much improvements going on, but we got so much more that we can be doing. We have a meeting this week to talk about all the vacancies of the the second floor levels. I know a lot of our businesses, they can't get sprinklers put in, so we were thinking about doing TIF money for that as well to help them out at one point. But I know we're kind of like struggling because we're coming to the end, we run out of money, but we need to explain to the community how that happens, how much is accumulated every year within these TIFs. And that's why I asked in the beginning too, could we have balances on every TIF so we can kind of just talk about it and lay everything out. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Alderwoman Conley.
And thank you, Chair, and apologies for ringing in a second time.
That's why we're here.
But just for everyone's, you know, for if people haven't had a chance to go through the ordinance in close detail, but Alderman Gregory, one of the things that you included in this and the next one that I think is a really great idea when we talk about, you know, barriers to public funds like this, is it includes a direct payment to contractors. Can you kind of explain that a little bit more, just so people can understand what that means? Because I think that was a great addition, and I think needs a little airtime.
Sure. All contractors, you know, all contractors will come in and work and they don't require something. But on smaller projects, we've seen that some contractors do need some upfront payment, and that often slows down and is a barrier, unintended barrier. So the goal of this is for us to pay those contractors directly, so we don't have to put that burden upon the resident.
Right, and it's not that reimbursement model that we've talked about that's caused problems in the past, too.
Correct.
Yeah, I think that was a really great addition, Alderman, so I wanted to,
Well, thank
I
you.
hadn't mentioned it earlier, and I was like, I wanted to say something about it, because I like that model. I'm intrigued to see how this works. So, yeah, thank you for putting that in there.
Thank you. And I would say the ultimate goal was really just to really give our economic development team, who works hard, just more tools and more flexibility to help the many calls that they do. And, I would certainly want to do that and just help our city move forward and close the gap more. And hopefully the next report will go from 1 to 2 to, not being in that top 10 level and start seeing some real progress and, overall with our bottom line, helping that grow. I apologize, Alderwoman.
No, thank you. Well, I did ask you a direct question, so you were really just apologizing to, you're taking my.
apologize.
No, I'm kidding. You don't have to apologize. That's what I wanted. I think it's important because it's looking at these funds that we have control over that we can use in a different way. And I think, that's something that we need to be doing, be flexible. So thank you. Thank you again, Chair.
Appreciate
You finished?
I got
No.
a que- Mayor, I mean,
Do you see my name, Alderman?
oh, I'm
Hannah?
sorry. I didn't see that.
Alderwoman Purchase.
The reason Sean had said, Alderman Gregory has said that we've been talking about it, and being in real estate, I think is one of those accountability areas too. If we're paying directly to, we're already going out and inspecting it through the program. So when someone says that they want a new roof, we still have to go out and inspect that before we even give them the money. So we can go ahead and eliminate that step and just pay it directly to the contractor. And then also it helps too for the banks that know.
Yeah.
So if you're going to get $10,000 because you were supposed to have that 50% up front, now they know, okay, this payment is going automatically to the contractor that's doing the work, that put the bid in. And I kind of went off of, when we were talking about it, went off of what we do over in Enos Park as well when I first started getting property over there. So I thought that would be a good idea, and it would also help OPID out too. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. Alderman Hanauer.
Okay, the one question that I have, and quite honestly, Sean, if you'd call me and just talk to me about some of this stuff too, it would help, so that I can get questions asked, all right?
I will.
But I guess the question is, why do we need this? What's different than the normal TIF?
Well, the recent change that we did was down to 10%, if you remember, on the 2 TIFs. We went from the 50% match, and we brought it down to 10%.
Right.
Which is still good and has helped. But we still see some issues in there, and so we thought that we would try this and put a certain amount of money in the bucket and let our team go to work and really try to kick some things out. I guess I hate this. I guess I'm trying to take some AUDs to a heart, baby, and jump this thing. I'm trying to get some movement, some activity going over, particularly in my ward as well as our colleagues. Alderman, I can tell you, man, we got a lot of things to do and not a lot of time to do them as far as funding and things of that nature go. We have some really, really good opportunities over in our community, and we want to try to make this as easy as possible on the people. And I mean, whether they pay 10% or 50%, if it's a good project that's going to return dividends back to our bottom line, and that tax thing, the goal of a TIF is to invest in it so much that we drive it above the baseline that it was frozen at. I just want to make sure that we're doing that and try to get some funding out to people as quick as possible and see how this works, see if this helps us out a little more.
Right. Well, I thought it was a good conversation between all of us. And actually, I'm sitting here kind of happy. It's a conversation that I got on in 2019. I had the largest TIF in the city. A lot of changes happened. I had to expand that TIF to pick up his area. He wasn't far east. It was Ward 3, and we was far east, and then we picked up Sean. And then I hit him back, and we took SHA, and we went Pillsbury. So I know the wards. I know the cities because I drive it constantly through everybody's neighborhood, all 10 wards. And I'm gleeful when I'm out west, and I'm excited, and I'm happy. I've told some of y'all about some of y'all's area, and I'm like, oh, my God, you know, how nice. But it is what it is. There's the rich and there's the poor. And when I got here in 2019, my people were too poor for matches. That's why the TIF was so big and was so fat. And to this day, me and this alderman from Ward 2 still fight, because Pillsbury, to me, is just devastated. And that's why the mayor has her program there every year as he fights to say, move it, you know, move it south. No, Pillsbury we're doing fine on the actual Pillsbury site now, but we got that whole original Springfield. Look at it that way. That'll help you know, where's the lead lines that we talked about? We're talking original Springfield residents. The heart of the old city, the old Springfield. That's why we have the oldest everything. And we start getting into the oldest flood, when flooding happens and all that. It's because we have old sewers. And when we put barriers, and that's what it was, so it was a trust barrier. Oh, some guy downtown, you know, used TIF money, blew it. So now the poor little guy trying to fix grandma who passed away's house, fix her roof, he ain't got the 10%, so the house never get fixed. Maybe if we can fix some of these roofs, fix some of this, you know, these things that TIF allows us to fix, we can get somebody to believe and develop in these areas, whether it's Pillsbury, real far east in his district. I have a mixed ward. I have a ward that has a little bit of everything. And that's why a lot of times I defer to Ward 2 when we look east and we try to spend money. But honestly, guys, I think this was a good discussion. And the answer is drive it. Drive through Pillsbury. And then drive from Pillsbury all the way out to Panther Creek. And that'll answer your questions of what's happening and how our decisions have impacted this city over numerous mayors, over numerous years. You got to drive it. You got to look at it for what it is. Then you got to look at the dates of things when they came. There was a time when downtown was booming. I went downtown with 5 theaters downtown. I know what I'm talking about. Tons of retails, you know. So all I'm saying is things change, and it is what it is. There's the rich and there's the poor. These programs, whether it's the census tracts, the federal, whether it's the state giving us things, they all have identified these areas, set these programs that allowed us to try to assist our citizens. And we should be doing that without the barriers that's in place. And one of the pieces I argued a long time ago when I first got on here was, well, then, if you're not worried about trust and somebody, then give it straight to the contractor. That was a Roy Williams argument way back then, all the way up to today when I was saying all these barriers is why our tips are so fast. So that's really what it's about. Debate is fine. That's our process. That's why I put things on debate. I need another week to go dig and look and compare to other cities and do what I got to do. So debate is fine. And speaking of that, it's a motion for debate. All in favor signify by saying aye.
One point of clarification, sorry. But it was mentioned the sponsors. If you look in your packet, the sponsors are Alderman Gregory, Alderman Williams, Alderwoman Purchase, and Alderwoman Notriano, so for this one and the next one. So your packet has that, even though the agenda only has Alderman Gregory as the sponsor.
Oh, thank you.
I'll fix that.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's on debate. Okay. Madam Clerk.
2025-265, an ordinance establishing the Far East Tax Increment Financing Neighborhood Improvement Grant Program.
Motion for debate.
Second.
Been properly moved and second for debate. Any discussion, please, please? All right, all in favor signify by...
Got some discussion.
Same thing. Alderman Carlson.
Let me just chime in, and Roy, you said a lot of things I agree with there. I mean, I am you know, these projects may be good. I'm all in favor of TIF, but as we've known over the last 4 or 5 years, a couple of these TIFs, mainly the downtown TIF, has been watered down. I mean, it was used inappropriately previously, and so I just think I have a responsibility to do my due diligence to get some more questions answered this week. And Alderman Gregory, you know, I think maybe that's what you were trying to tell me a couple weeks ago out on Monroe Street after a meeting. Maybe we wanted to start that conversation. And so, you know, I look forward to your call this week, and we can talk a little bit more, and some of the TIF numbers I think that Alderman Purchase asked for. So that's where I'm at. I think we just have a fiscal responsibility to our citizens to spend this money wisely. So, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, sir. Anybody have any? What's it you? No? Okay. Madam Clerk.
All those in favor?
Oh, I thought we voted.
No.
Oh, for this one, okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Y'all keep interrupting, okay.
2025-266, a resolution to support and advance the History Across the Tracks initiative to promote cultural preservation, tourism, and economic development in East Springfield.
Motion
for debate.
Debate. Good.
Second.
All
Any
right.
discussion?
Yes. Ms. Johanna, if you may, I have a packet for everyone.
Oh, okay.
I'll give it to them.
You're all right.
I feel bad. I feel bad.
And then there's one speaker specifically for this.
Thank you.
Yeah, super.
So I'm gonna go breeze through this really, really well. This is once everybody gets it. So I just jotted down some things. First of all, I wanna thank our caucus. I wanna thank the friends of the caucus. I wanna thank everyone who has really sat down with us and really tried to help us come up with a great initiative to bring further economic development to East Springfield. And they say, you know, so I'm just gonna go through this. So it's called History Across the Tracks. It's been something that's been building for some time, even back to when former Alderwoman, now State Senator Turner was sitting in this seat. We've had discussions. I've had discussions with Director Dahl. I've had some great meetings. And I left those meetings very, very, very excited about the potential for East Springfield in this particular initiative. I don't say program, because programs end. I learned that. I say initiative, because it's something that we'll have to keep going. So, as it says up top, History Across the Tracks, reviving Springfield's Black legacy and rebuilding our future. At the top, you'll see it says it's a $7 to $10 million investment. Don't fall out of your seats yet. Alderman Hanauer, go with me. Why Springfield? Why now? Springfield, we're in a unique position, as I believe we are the only city that was designated 2 state-designated cultural districts. If you remember, myself and Alderman Donlin were standing just out front and presented 2 proclamations on behalf of the mayor to the Springfield Project and the Urban League. In 2024, the site of the 1908 race ride was declared a national monument, attracting national attention and global tourism potential. This project will elevate neglected Black historical sites into nationally significant Black heritage tourism corridor. National studies show that Black cultural site tourists spend about $1,300 per trip, and on average are more likely to travel for history and cultural significance. Where did I get that from? This fancy research paper that was given to me called the Mandela Research, 2018 copy. So what is History Across the Tracks? It's a community-led initiative. It's not going to be led by the city, but it is a community-led initiative. Just, a month ago, we approved some zoning for the Lincoln Colored Home, which is, you know, especially special to me, coming from where I come from as a former foster and adopted child. So I took a lot of pleasure in approving that in my ward. But some of the sites that would be included in this History Across the Tracks initiative would be the Ambidexter Institute, the Lincoln Colored Home, as I just mentioned, the Dr. Edwin Lee Medical Clinic, the Engine House number 5, which was the all-black firehouse, now home of the Prince Hall Masons, number 3. Zion Baptist Church, which is the oldest black church in Springfield, one of them as well. And things that are already there. There's already historical markers throughout this city where black men were hung that have been memorialized already, among other advancements by those who come before us. So not to belabor the point, but all the project features, things like job creation, constructions, both temporary and permanent situations, youth workforce programs are really big on partnerships and making any project that we do not only benefit what's going on, but benefit those who are training in apprenticeship models. Cultural preservation, events, and tourism, of course, is important. It's one of our biggest things here, and this is an untapped sector that we have a unique ability to really tap into and bring even more revenue to our city, as well as the impact on black businesses and other businesses, not only in Ward 2, but throughout our city. Gives you some different numbers on our construction phases and things that can happen. Generally, and this is off other models from other areas of projects that are similar size, but 30 to 50 full-time equivalent jobs could happen from things like this. $2.5 million to $3.5 million in labor income could happen with our blessings. Of course, prioritization always for locally owned contracts. I'm always a stickler to make sure blacks and minorities is on those projects. Of course, indirect economic effects. I listen to Ryan a lot. He talks about a multiplier and things. So our regional averages is as such. It can give us a chance to get $10 to $12 million in extra revenue if done correctly. And I thought this was interesting as well when I pulled this up from that Mandela research of black cultural. But $109 billion nationally, 60% of African American travelers like to go see things that they can relate to. We have an awesome opportunity with the Route 66 centennial or bicentennial that is coming, because we know that there was a time when travelers came down that corridor that when nighttime came, they couldn't go left of the tracks or west of the tracks. They had to go east. And some of those homes and places where they had to go is still there, and that tourism can certainly come across the tracks as well as see what's on the west side of those tracks that everyone got to see at all hours of the day. I'm going to skip below because I always know that these things don't happen overnight, right? So we know it has to be implemented. I do want to say that many of these sites and the owners, they are working on these. We've seen investment previously in the Ambidexter House in the foundation. I remember when that was going on, the guy said it was the heaviest house they ever lifted. That's because it has bricks in the cavity that goes halfway up, and then the rest of it is of course, wood. But that's how that particular structure is and why it was so heavy for him to lift. That project is completed, and that new foundation is done. And that's similar to what we're trying to do this community. We're trying to pick it up off that old raggedy foundation and set it back down on a new one. So when we talk about funding, of course, funding, my only request from the city in this initial phase was approximately $1.5 million. So we say, well, where will we get that from? I will say that there is several mechanisms that we have, as many of these buildings lie in TIF areas, CBDG areas, on and on and on. But I'm going to leave that specialty up to our economic development department. As well as I asked from the state of Illinois, from of course, our senators and our reps. Those conversations have been had, and those conversations have been received positively. And finally, why this matters, because it's more than just brick and mortars. It's about economic justice through cultural restoration. It creates real jobs and ownership opportunities. It honors Black history and the resilience in Springfield. It can drive a new wave of tourism to our underserved community, and it can deliver on city and state equity, tourism, and economic development priorities. And that is all I got. Thank you.
Any questions at all? Any more discussion? None from the alderman. We have one person, I think, signed up to speak specifically to this.
Yes. Brianna Eilers.
I thought my boys. The Ken Cage, too?
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
Can put more than just this, so I don't know.
Hi.
Hello.
Can put more than just this, so I didn't know.
So I just wanted to speak on why I think it's important. Black history taught me resilience, taught me strength, love, so many words. I cannot express how many words. Trust. And Springfield history is insane. It taught me who I am and where I come from. And man, I'm really going to tell the city of Springfield. I came up here and I told everybody about the KKK and the history, and I know that the formal name is the 1908 race riot, but it is White Rage Massacre, and that's important to solidify that it is a White Rage Massacre. The story is just horrendous, and there are things happening in today's world that trace all the way back to those roots, to the point where I already told the Massey Commission, so I might as well tell everybody else that I came up here and I spoke under Brianna Day. That's because I have ties in my family to white supremacy. Those ties go back to Jeffrey Epstein, as well as there's some ties in the music industry as well in there. And people these days are not going to know that if they do not know history. There are humans that are my age who are walking around who have been groomed by men that are older than them, that do not know that that has happened to them. And I can attest to that because it happened to me for decades before I knew. So I beg of you to support it. I beg of you to tell white supremacy where they can go stick it. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Ken Page.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Chair, I stand in support of Ordinance 264, 265, and 266. And I would like to say that my property taxes are too high, and they are approaching $7,000. I do not have the largest house in my neighborhood, but I know in a year or so I'm going to be over $7,000. But I stand in support of Ward 2 and Ward 3. And especially 266, that creating history across the tracks. I'm a Prince Hall Mason, and we own the first black firehouse in the city of Springfield. That's an historical site, and we prepared a brochure. And I think it's at one point in time, I know several other alderpersons have visited that place a number of times, and I do agree that we probably should drive through the city and look at those. I think go east of 11th Street and look at those properties. So our 501c3 prepared this brochure. It says we are still standing after all this time. It includes the Lincoln's Colored Home, the Ambidexter Institute, and the first black firehouse, called the Colored Firehouse. So they were so popular, we had to reprint them. And I'm going to talk to Scott Dahl. I think that the city should help with this brochure. I think it's extremely important because people out of town wanted this brochure because they didn't even know it existed. So we put them all together. And I support that. And Department of Interior was in Springfield, and I was part of that whole thing with the designation of the 1908 race riot site. And they visited the Black Firehouse 3 times, and they asked, could they have that building? Because it was part of that whole thing, because the firefighters from that firehouse fought the fires set in 1908. But we explained to them that it belonged to the people, and we would like for them to work with us to restore that. But and I'm glad that the alderpersons brought this forward, because the city has been a little bit lacking in addressing those properties. And I know the mayor is aware of it, and a lot of people are aware of it, especially with the 1908 race riot and its connection to it. But I think the city there should be something that the city should do, and I think this is extremely important. And it's a struggle, it's expensive. That building was built in 1902, 1903, and it still stands. But I would like to say we don't have deep pockets, because I pay too much in property taxes. So we don't have deep pockets, the members, to afford everything that requires a building, the upkeep of a building that old. That building is huge. That's when they built the 2-story firehouses. And it is the only one of the 3 that exist, the 4 that exist in the city, that the facade was removed. So we're working to get the facade restored on that, and there's work to be done on the inside. We've done extensive work on it, a new roof. We've stabilized the building. We've been good stewards to that building, and the community appreciates that. And I want the city to appreciate that. We've been very good stewards in taking care of that building. I think the city needs to have an important role in that building as well. The community enjoys that building. That building at one time was the only place that black people could go for receptions. And once the Masons bought it in 1970 and converted it, but it still stands. So we're going to have some more of these printed with some edits on this brochure. I'm going to talk to Scott Dahl, and maybe the Convention and Visitors Bureau can look at how we can make sure, because we gave this to a lot of people outside of the city, and they were happy to get it. And people do, in fact, come by that building and come by those sites. They're not just sitting there and people are not aware of it. They have the bike tours, the Illinois Department of Natural Resources is part of all of their tours and everything. So, and we're very happy about that. We've been great stewards, and I do appreciate this ordinance. I do appreciate your support of it. I appreciate the city working any way that they can to support these properties and the owners of these properties. We're just good stewards. Even though we have to pay the taxes and the light bills and everything, we don't get a break with CWLP. It costs a lot for a 2-story building at that age. But we want to make sure that it remained in this city and it was not torn down, because at one time during urban renewal of the city, Mayor Houston's first administration came to the Prince Hall Masons and wanted to buy it, to tear it down and make it part of Pioneer Park. But that did not happen, so we are extremely happy about that. So Congress has that in their reports and everything about that building, and it's important to the city. Even though Lincoln may not have been there, we will say maybe Lincoln visited there, maybe, in his spirit. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Mr. Page. Thank you, sir. All right.
That's good.
That's it? Okay.
I got a comment.
Oh, Alderwoman Purchase.
Thank you, Chair. I think too, when Alderman Gregory brought this to our attention and we all 3 talked about it, this is one of the very reasons why we asked Kim Page to come and to speak about the history. And just you all, me being an alderwoman for downtown, I've learned a lot. So we have our Armory building that's being completely redone by the state. They're dumping a ton of money in it, but that was one of the places that blacks was able to go, where whites could not come in and mess with them. Even on 5th Street, I just learned where we have a mile mark or that's sitting right there on the sidewalk. It showed, but guess what? The address is erased off of that street. So it shows what the original address was, and that was another location that blacks was able to go into that whites could not come in and bother them. And I think sometimes we kind of straggle the fence on when we want to talk about the history of the 1908 race riot. That's how the NAACP was formed nationally, but we really didn't even, there was about 4 years ago where there was heavy conversation and it was controversial about having a actual headquarters here. But it's everywhere. They have awards for it. It's like it's being talked about, but it's being erased here in our own backyard. So I was glad to see when we had Ken Page and others that went to the White House to ensure that these things were being talked about and that history is not going to continue to repeat itself. I remember the mayor, we all clapped because she said at the, I think it was, help me out, what's the breakfast that we went to? The Martin Luther King breakfast, and she said we celebrating this 365 days, not just one day. So I think that we have a lot of progress going, and we got to work as a team. I'm going to say that. We have to work as a team. We have to talk to each other. We have to educate each other and figure out a way for this to happen. When we have some of our legislators saying that they're in support of this, I think just bringing everybody together to talk about it is going to be our key to success for this project. We have our Springfield Police Department, having new leadership in place and knowing what this is like and being around the city for a long time and being able to see this transition, that's important to me as well. So I think this is a good way to bring it forward. It's going to take a lot of steps, and I hope that we can get support. And I also know that we all have to come to the table to talk about this. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
2025-267, an ordinance authorizing a contract for the outfit and
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm the
Be so long.
helping chair today.
That's for debate, by the way, right?
Yeah.
Madam Clerk.
2025-267, an ordinance authorizing a contract for the outfit and install of the equipment, technology, and workstations in the Real-Time Information Center with Thundercat Technology in an amount not to exceed $204,546.03, funded by the COPS Technology and Equipment Grant for the Springfield Police Department.
Motion for consent.
Second.
We properly moved in second for consent. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
2025-268, an ordinance authorizing the execution of a 3-year agreement with the International Union of Operating Engineers, IUOE, Local 965, for employees with the Office of Public Utilities from May 1, 2025 through April 28, 2028.
Motion for consent.
Second.
Been properly moved in second for consent. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
2025-269, an ordinance authorizing payment of $24,500 for settlement of Sangamon County Court Case 17-L-249, Jackson versus City of Springfield.
Move to consent.
Second.
Been properly moved in second to send this on to consent. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Takes care of the ordinances. Any unfinished business? Unfinished business. Anybody?
I've got old business.
Okay.
I got real old business.
Alderwoman Noritariano.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so I actually have a question for AC Leach, if you...
AC.
Hello. Thank
How are you?
Good. So it was, man, I can't even think of how long ago. It feels like maybe last summer. So I hope you were paying attention then. I asked what we could do about, we were having a lot of break-ins in Ward 6 into vacant houses or houses under construction where people were going in and destroying the air conditioner and the piping and things like that in order to pull scrap materials and sell them. And I did a little research and found that by state law, SPD can go to the scrap dealer or the people who buy the scrap and make sure that they're complying with state laws and in buying and selling, and also if we needed to do any investigations to perhaps find the perpetrators of these crimes against property. I know recently we've had another big one at a vacant business on Wabash that I think caused thousands of dollars worth of damage. And so I just wanted to know if there's anything you could share with us about the work that the department is doing to isolate this, what appears to be an organized criminal enterprise of breaking in and stealing things for scrap.
Yes, ma'am. There's a few different groups that are responsible for a lot of these burglaries. If we're not able to catch them in the crime or doing the act, our detectives oftentimes do follow up with the businesses, the scrap metal businesses, and others. Pawn shops could be an example. And utilize some of their resources to help our investigation to backtrack and find out who they are. So we do reach out to them. We do utilize other resources outside of just us to try to catch them.
Mm-hmm. And would you say you have success with that, or?
Yes.
Okay. And so is it a situation where we catch people and do whatever and they reoffend, or are more people popping up?
Both.
Okay.
We do run into a lot of repeat offenders, but at the same time, there's new faces that come in all the time. Some people travel here from out of town to do these things. Some are repeat offenders here. We see both.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Notriano, just so you know, the mayor's office has been working with my office and SPD to put together an ordinance on secondhand dealers to address this problem, and we anticipate you seeing it very soon.
Oh, that's so good to hear. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And last old business or unfinished business for me is a reminder that this Saturday at 10:30 a.m. I am hosting a Ward 6 Town Hall meeting at Southside Christian Church in the community room, and I'd like to invite all city staff who are available and would like to interface with the public to come, and my colleagues who can attend and not break the Open Meetings Act, and of course all the Ward 6 residents who may be listening. I look forward to seeing everyone on Saturday morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Hanauer.
Yeah, I got some old business. I would like to wish my old colleague, Brad
Happy
Carlson,
21st birthday.
a happy 75th birthday.
Dang, I said 21st.
Looks that old. So happy birthday, Brad, and
I tried to help.
I think
21st.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
did it under old business. You catch that? I did that because Tim told me to, so.
And we have another birthday later in the week. Alderwoman Conley.
Oh.
That off Facebook for a reason.
Sorry, outed you. Happy birthday.
It's just 70 for me, so.
Happy 60th. Okay. No more unfinished business, any new business?
Yep.
We'll do the Alder first, then I'll get you, Director. Come on, Alderwoman Purchase.
Thank you, Chair. So this Thursday, June 26th, from 4 to 5:30 p.m., we have a community meeting, and we, as in Downtown Springfield, Inc., and we will be talking about the master plan and just the full shaping of Downtown Springfield recap and what the future has for us. I would like to strongly encourage any and all that are welcome and my colleagues to come out so that you can hear from the businesses and from the downtown executive director and board members of what's going on, what they're feeling, and what they're projecting to look at over the next 6 to 12 months. So again, it's from 4 to 5:30, and it is at One Horseman Plaza. And the doors close 15 minutes prior to the meeting, so, don't be late, beat me there. Thank you.
Any more new? No more new? Madam Clerk, let's listen to the citizens. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot about you already, Director. Well, we'll start with you and then go. Okay.
I have something to pass out to the
Superwoman.
Please.
gave her name, so I think she a superwoman.
Good evening, everyone. I would start by saying sometimes my wife would tell me that I over-prepare for things way too much. But on nights like this, when we have discussions about the TIF and, you know, the East Side and our minority businesses, it makes me very happy that I overly prepare. So I want to introduce you all to a program that I've been working very hard to develop and get off the ground, and that is the Springfield Minority Business Institute. So essentially what I've seen over the last 2 years, I came in with a lot of big ideas of how I was going to fix things, but didn't really have the time to sit down and listen to what the actual issues were. So I realized from a city perspective, we've run into issues when it comes to grants or funding with people not understanding, you know, what's in the contract language or, you know, what kind of permits you need to pull before you do some kind of renovation on your business or rezoning an area. And that happens very frequently to our minority business owners and our minority nonprofit organizers. So what I'm proposing is an 8 or 9 week training program. All the partners you see at the top are those who I've already met with and have bought in and agreed to help us. And that will be the Springfield Urban League, the Greater Springfield Chamber of Commerce, my office, and the UIS College of Business and Management. So the mission of this program is to increase the capacity for our minority business owners to help cut down the frequency rates of challenges and barriers that we see. A lot of times when you see someone own a business, you expect them to know all of the steps they need to go through in order to comply with what they need from the city. And we've seen sometimes that's just not the case. Mr. Robert Fraser has come up here a number of times and talked about the need for education. This is my attempt from a city side for us to put a better foot forward in that education. So this training program would start off with the first 3 weeks being taught directly by our city staff. The classes would be 1 time a week, because I know everybody's schedule is busy. We want to make sure this is accessible for people. The parts that are hosted by the city will be done at the community room in Station 6, so that way we're accessible to the east side. The first week will be done by OPED, so we can go over what is a grant, what is the language, Grants 101, what is TIF, what is CDBG, all of the things that you all know and are well versed in, but our nonprofit organizers may not be as well versed in as they need to interact with the city. Not everybody understands what a reimbursement grant is. They don't understand all the language and the terminology. So I feel like sitting and teaching a class is a part of this entire series to make sure that people understand, hey, this is what you need to be reading. This is how often you need to be checking in. This is who's eligible for this money. These are organizations that are not. Here's how you make sure that you have all your I's dotted and your T's crossed before you set a grand opening date or, you know, say you're going to do something with a building and you're not fully understanding all the steps that go into it. Along those lines, week 2 would be with Public Works, so you understand permitting and zoning. I know you had a very fruitful debate up here a couple weeks ago about what happens when you rezone an area from business use to residential use or commercial use. Some people set a grand opening date and buy a property and don't realize that it's not zoned for what they want to do with it. And before you set that date, you need to make sure it's zoned properly. So we would go through step by step with people from building and zoning to sit and teach the participants how to do that. Week 3 would be with procurement. Not everybody understands how to read a boilerplate or what boilerplate language is or how you make sure that you're registered and can find out if registered as a minority subcontractor or find the opportunities to that major contractors are asking for MBE or FBE subcontractor participation. These are things that, again, we expect people to do. It's up on the website. But if we walk people through it step by step, there's a better chance that they'll be able to get some of these subcontractor grants. This education will help increase their capacity. It will help increase the consistency. It will help increase their chances of getting more opportunities. Mike Murphy in the Springfield Chamber of Commerce will be speaking in the next week to make sure that those business owners know the benefits of being a member of the chamber and what comes along with that. Week 5 is an intro to the Springfield Urban League. Some people don't know that there are programs in workforce development in the Urban League. There's programs that allow you to buy property for your businesses. And Dr. Marcus Johnson is one of the most remarkable, influential people I think that I've ever met in my life, and he's here in the city of Springfield, and he doesn't always get the credit, you know, that he deserves for the work that he does, but I think he's going to be extremely impactful in partnering with us in this program. I sat down with Vice Chancellor Davenport from UIS and the College of Business and Management. They want to do a 2-week course on finance, operations, marketing, budgeting, show the participants the new UIS Trading Finance Lab that is getting built and is in production right now. So as they're working, they can figure out what they need. They want to work to put together certification programs, so you don't have to go get a full MBA, but if you come through this program, you can go and take a certification program in data analytics or budgeting or finance that will enhance your ability to run your business and make it successful. It's all the capacity building things that minority business owners have said that we needed, that I feel that you all agree that we would like to develop. But I feel like someone outside of the horseshoe kind of had to take the reins and put something together and say, okay, this is something that we can get behind. Here are some changes that we can make. Now, this is still in the early stages. I have some more meetings that are coming up. I'm meeting with Carlos from DSI to get his input and see how can we help here. I'm meeting with representatives from Sangamon CEO to say, okay, you have a very successful program. How do we incorporate some of these things that you've been doing into a program here that we're running at the city? My job is to develop programs and initiatives that are sustainable, that are affordable, that are accessible. That is what I'm trying to do with this. Week 8, I feel like, is especially impactful, and that is our minority executives panel. It's very impactful as a black man to see other successful people of color talk about their experience and explain it to you and have a chance to ask questions, say, what pitfalls did you run into? What hurdles did you run into? I think that we have actually a pretty large crop of successful minority individuals who are leaders in organization and industry here. And we owe it to the people to bring them together and say, it's attainable, it's achievable, it's here, your city supports you, you just have to come sign up and be a part of it. And then week 9, there would be a graduation, small banquet, because, you know, people got to have some food, and you would receive your certificate saying that you've gone through the program. Now, there will be more things we'll be building later on, like an alumni network, so that way these things are constantly going and new businesses coming in or connecting with the old businesses. But what I'm hoping is, and I know I can't fix the problem overnight, but we can put together a sustainable program that addresses a number of the issues that we've seen. I think Alderwoman Notariano brought up a very good point earlier, which says that the private businesses don't invest in the east side. I think that we can really help that by pouring into educationally the businesses that are already there, the Boyds, the Carters, the Clay's Popeyes, and build those up and develop the community. The young future entrepreneurs who are there need to be able to go through a training program so that way they can avoid the pitfalls that their predecessors have come through. When you're doing that and developing the businesses that are already there, I think that makes the area a more desirable place for outside investors to want to come and spend their money. I think everybody has a very good perspective on both sides of the argument. My hope is that we can put together an initiative that is sustainable and will be here administrations and administrations down the line. And when we look at this 10 years from now, 15 years from now, we can say this education that we've helped provide to the people makes a significant impact in growing the capacity, helping the east side, helping our minority business owners, and also putting a spotlight on some of our wonderful young minority business owners that aren't known outside of this area, but are going to grow. Like I know Alderman Gregory knows Everett with Apply Pressure. Mm-hmm. He has a phenomenal clothing brand. I want to connect him with people that will help his brand grow, that will help it go beyond Springfield, and that we can say that came from here. And more young people will want to create things that get out of Springfield to say, I'm from here, I'm coming back here. I want people to start companies like LRS where you could be anywhere in the world, but you're still here in Springfield. I think we can really do that, and I hope that you support this program. Thank you.
Well, Director, what I would say is that that's impressive. I appreciate appreciate you because I can really tell by reading through this, you spend a lot of time and work and meetings in this. And before you go, there's a couple aldermen that want to speak with you. We'll start with,
No,
oh God, this will be rough because he can go as long as you. Alderman Gregory.
I won't. Great job, Director Posey. On this, my only comments is I think that we have to involve the Springfield project and the Black Chamber in that. I know that's probably
Dominic Watson has the overview program, and he's looking it over to get back to me to say how they want to participate in part of it.
And I think what would be I think this is an excellent flow for sure. I think we have some very successful younger entrepreneurs, so to speak, in our community, and I think they will serve you well at the end of the program of coming in and talking to some of the people who go through this type of program. And I think the end goal, eventually, and I know we've had discussion on the MBE thing. The end goal is to certify and be a certified MBE with the city and really be in there and really after this program, think about how we structure that within the city and how we sort of model that after the state of Illinois, and people who go through these type of programs would have the proper tools to make sure they go through that very, very well. So thank you. I appreciate you, and I look further to more discussion. And I know you've been reaching out to me and Roy, and I apologize. We have not gotten with you, but good job. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Conley.
Thank you, Chair. Director, I just want to say thank you. In my day job, I do a lot of explaining and re-educating on, kind of technical, difficult, complicated things that people need, but you don't always know how, you don't even know what questions to ask. And I'm looking at this and this agenda, and I'm thinking, this is not only going to just give people tools, but it's also going to give them more information on, where else do I need to go next? Now that you know what you don't know, and in a lot of these instances, no, I'm really excited. This is that outreach and education that I think is really critically important, and really looking forward to this. Let me know when you've got it ready to go. I'm sure we'll all be excited to help promote and drive people over to get registered for this.
And I would also say to that point, each of the organizations that is partnering with us right now is going back and looking at what I put there and adding to it, changing things around, seeing from their level of expertise what would be the best type of lesson, how long does this lesson need to be, where does this need to happen. As I said, the sites for the actual City of Springfield staff will be at the community room, but for the other partners, it will be done on site at their location. So that way, not only are you telling people about the resources that they have, but they're seeing where it is. They're building relationships with the people who are there and the people who are in charge. I can say that in my meeting with UIS, they're going to sit and look at this as an academic curriculum and say, okay, how do we best organize this for people to, understand and absorb all the information? How can we use this to then, encourage business owners or nonprofit organizers to go get continued education to see how they can reach more people, how they can make their business more impactful? I would also ask you as city council members to do the same thing. If you have time to just look over the outline I have, and if you say, hey, here's something that I think would be a great idea, I would love to incorporate it in. Like I said, this is at the fledgling stages, but before I brought it to you all, I wanted to make sure it was detailed and put together enough that it wasn't just a dream or an idea. It's a program that will be built and will be sustainable and will be impactful. I know we're gonna make lasting change.
I think this is great, and giving people additional access and making those new connections are, again, it's really important. So thank you. I'm excited to see how this builds up. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Thank you, Director. Okay,
Chair.
Alderwoman Purchase.
Sorry, I have one more announcement. I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge, my dad is here with the National Association Letter Carriers. Their statewide conference is here this weekend. Please, if you see any letter carrier walking around, thank them. Look, I said thank you. Thank them, because I grew up as a letter carrier baby, and we do a lot in the community with giving out food and making sure, as my dad always said, I had a rule of you give your letter carrier a birthday card and a Christmas card, because they make sure your mail, your paycheck, your medical papers, anything that's important is placed in your mailbox. So if you see a letter carrier this weekend through their conference walking around downtown, please thank them for the work that they do, and welcome Daddy.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Citizens, Madam Clerk.
Aaron Cahill. Okay. Sorry if I butcher this. Zambi Bayano.
I'm Zumbi Bayano. I just came to speak on the behalf of the East Side. And I prepared this for y'all because my grandmother and my grandfather say I cuss too much, so I'm going to make sure I don't do that. I said, in order to truly understand the conditions that plague the East Side, we have to interpret them through their proper historical, political, socio-economic context. Without doing so, we ignore the destructive elements that contribute to shaping this reality: addiction, crime, poverty, broken homes, unemployment, inadequate education, lack of government commitment, etc. Too often, we mistakenly confuse the symptoms with the cause itself, consequently pathologizing communities like the East Side, and ignoring the deeper structural functionalism that maintains social order by suppressing marginalized populations. The social harm that disproportionately affects the East Side is not the result of individual choices, but a direct reflection of the social system within which they occur. Just as an individual's personality is shaped by environmental factors, the collective character of a community is socially constructed, conditioned over time by systems of power, control, and institutional neglect. Also, stereotypical images of the black community, particularly black males, serves as a tool to justify predatory police practices, racial discrimination, punitive punishment, and the expansion of America's carceral state, further accelerating the prison industrial complex, which perpetuates the cycle of mass incarceration. This misrepresentation of the black community influences how black culture itself is perceived and portrayed. Mainstream media narratives paint the picture of black life primarily in terms of struggle, crime, and dysfunction, dehumanizing our existence and reducing the complexity of black issues to simplistic generalizations. After decades of racially codified politics and policies framed by rhetoric such as law and order, tough on crime, public safety, and the Law Enforcement Assistance Act, the black community became a manufactured containment zone. The so-called war on drugs, the war on crime, the war on poverty, the Juvenile Delinquents Act, FBI's COINTELPRO, the 1994 Crime Bill, etc., were all part of a deliberate effort to criminalize, deprive, and destabilize black communities. In essence, the core of the black community is the black family structure, which serves as the primary building block for resistance, cultural preservation, and cooperative economics. The black man, woman, and child represent a unifying force, one that embodies the principles of love, peace, freedom, harmony, and cultural continuity, values that manifest themselves within our collective identity. The black family functions as a foundational support system and the source of our social power. According to Dr. Amos Wilson, power is essential to our existence and the most influential factor in determining our quality of life. Power provides us with the ability to protect, define, and shape our reality within society. It is the means by which the black community maintains its self-reliance, preserves its identity, and determines its own future. Therefore, the black community must develop a strategic plan for power, with particular focus on economics. Because when you ask yourself, who controls the economy in the black neighborhood? Who owns the liquor stores? Who owns all the corner stores, the chicken shacks, the gas stations, the smoke shops, the tax places? How many places of worship do we have on the east side? How much does the church invest in the East Side community. Where's the NAACP blueprint for Black Power? Speaking of the NAACP, did you know that the NAACP is a controlled opposition group founded by Zionists? Did you know that the 1908 riots was led by a Russian Zionist named Abraham Raymer? Did you know that the 1908 riots in Springfield is the only so-called rights riots where it was more whites died than blacks? Did you know that they had to call in the National Guard for reinforcement? Do you know that this was a deliberate destruction of the black economy perpetuated by Zionist Russian Jews? This ain't had nothing to do with no race riot. White had nothing to do with black. So when you got individuals who never experienced what it means to be a black man or have never known pain of having their family torn apart due to systematic destruction, stand in front of city councils or platforms, speaking on our behalf, they do more than misrepresent our struggles. They actively undermine them. These so-called advocates don't amplify our voices. They drown them out, reducing our lived experience to abstract concepts and empty rhetorics. Salute, sir. Continue out.
Ken Pasha. I think we got it. No, she said no.
I actually had a topic I'd spent a lot of time on, the police stop numbers. I'm going to come back to that, though. I'll probably do it next week. It's a pretty long piece. I want all 5 minutes on it. I thought it was odd, though, that it was noted that at this point a 3-term alderman didn't know how TIFs work or what we qualify them as. So I thought I'd go over that a bit, kind of maybe help educate for anyone that wasn't aware of how that works. See, a tax increment financing district is a municipality must demonstrate that an area is blighted or likely to become blighted. This typically involves documenting the presence of specific blighting conditions, such as dilapidation, obsolescence, or inadequate infrastructure within that proposed district. You were challenged to drive from Pillsbury to Panther Creek West. I'd strongly encourage you to do it, because if you seem to have questions about why we would need that development money or things like that, or how we would qualify, I have to say you probably haven't been over to my side of town very much, because I've been to yours quite a bit. It's where most of the commerce is centered that most of us would go to. It's not on my side of town. And you can say, well, people develop where they want, Ken. But if you're going to tell me that people would look at an area of the side of town that has that high level of crime and traffic stops and lack of development and lack of infrastructure and lack of, I could keep going on and on and on of lacks, and you say, you know, dishonestly, well, they will develop anywhere. They develop where they want. No, they develop very clearly where the money is, where the money's been put, where the city shows an interest in putting it. And I mean, you look at me every time I'm up here like I'm just babbling away, like there's not decades of evidence that you just seem to be willing to ignore. You guys talk about fiscal responsibility at specific times. It's interesting. I've been coming here for quite a long time, and you know, I could get you guys the tapes, I can cut out the recordings, but we all know when the worry comes out, when the abacus starts counting, when the calculator starts typing away in old Ralphie and Brad's wallet in their heads. Are we about to give those folks over on the poor side of town more money? Why would we do that? Haven't they fixed that problem themselves? Haven't they overcome decades of systemic racism and institutional efforts against them? I mean, it's fascinating to see a grown adult in this day and age, in a city that you have been in for decades, not come over to our side of town and question why that hasn't changed. I mean, it's interesting even more so that you guys aren't even really willing to give it a chance to do so. And I think that's the strange part, is that often when these issues come up, there's this worry about fiscal responsibility. But we don't have that kind of concern when we talk about $60 million on a police budget, even though it's shown that over-policing and over-pullovers and things like that don't actually lower crime. Ralph, did you know that? A lot of people don't. They don't really check that kind of stuff. They're just draconian lawmakers where they just want to see people locked up or more traffic stops, because that'll fix it, right? We've been doing that for decades. Why don't you try spending some money on my side of town, and then we'll see where the developers actually want to go.
Address the chair, please.
Because it's frustrating in my area to see that lack of development, because I've spent 43 years watching it. It's not like a thing that we just made up or, want more money because we're selfish and we think you guys got it all. You do, though. Seriously, can you even name a blighted area that would qualify on your side of town for either of your districts? I mean, legitimately, I can name a whole swath on those areas of town. But I think that's the thing, is you guys are so far separated from the reality that most of us are a part of. You think that we are either making it up or that we should work as hard as, I don't know, maybe your side of town did? Is it a bootstrap mentality that you think we're missing? Do you think we just don't work hard enough or want it bad enough? The east side just fritters away its money and doesn't work for development and doesn't ask businesses to come over? Or do you think that the work that hasn't been done on that side of town, when they talk about the poor side of town or the black side of town, you think those developers, do you guys mention that stuff to them? Because I know you guys talk to those kind of people. Don't try and fool me into believing that these conversations only happen in official spaces, in front of official places where FOIA would touch it. Because that's ridiculous. There's absolutely no way that the development has continued unabated on the west side to the point that we're almost touching other cities in terms of our stretching out. And my side of town has continued to see the same degradation, the same dilapidation, the same obsolescence that has been enforced for decades. And if you doubt it, just drive over to Town and Country Shopping Center. See those kind of places. See what it's like when you watch a place die in front of your eyes and they replace major stores. 2 seconds, just let me finish the sentence and I promise I'm done. When they replace a major store with a storage facility. My entire 6th Street development is 4 different U-Haul facilities. You think they'd stick that on your side of town or Carlson's? It wouldn't. It wouldn't happen. So don't try that.
Right. Thank you, sir.
Next speaker is Larry Allen.
Mr. Allen, no cussing.
Thank you.
Okay.
First time I've been up here, so I want to thank you.
Welcome.
Oh, I'm
Your
sorry.
mic's not on, Mr. O'Leary.
Wait, please stop. Can we get his mic back on? It's still muted. There we go.
There we go.
Okay, I realize I have 5 minutes. I want to thank you people for allowing me to be here. This is the first time being here. I'm a person that works in the shadows. My concern is Lincoln Towers. I've been there for 3 years. As a gentleman said here before, it touched me what he said. He says, Springfield, you could choose any place you want to be. I came from another state. I used to be here in Illinois, but after 25 years, I moved back. Divorced, kids have grown. I came here. First apartment I rented was Lincoln Towers. I'm very disappointed in Lincoln Towers. Some areas it's gotten better, and some it hasn't. Ms. Purchase and corporate counsel and others have been very kind. I think all of you are a diverse bunch of people. But what you don't realize, a few months ago, I fell. I filed a complaint. The property outside the front door is still not being worked on. But that's not my concern. I've got other issues. You guys have done the best you could, and I don't want to use this format in the wrong context. Once I say what I have to say, I hope Corporation Counsel will go along with what I have to say, if he can or not. Under the Freedom of Information Act, I was going to request the safety concerns of the building through the fire department, the calls. The reason being, I went to Doris Turner's office a few months ago, around April, putting it in context. I went to her office. I'm not getting a copy of my bill, my payment for my rent, or anything. I left copies, canceled checks at her office. Also filed a complaint with the Illinois Attorney General's office here about it. 1 month later, I requested in front of the regional manager a receipt. The community manager didn't want to give me a receipt. She said, your check is a receipt. I know you have 10 days by state law to issue a receipt. She put on it when it was supposed to be received. When it got it, it was changed and altered on the check May 4th, which was a Sunday. The office is closed, but I don't have a lot of time to get into it. To make a long story short, I also discovered that over the course of my lease agreement, which I have dates and documents, which you guys can't do anything about. You can't do it because it's beyond your control, but I'm letting you know. I filed a complaint with the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulations. Lincoln Tires was not in compliance with their registration of their leasing agent. I'm positive of that. They use an exemption to get around it. If you're in the state of Illinois, you can use an exemption if you are a resident manager living on that property, if I'm correct. There has never been a property manager living on that property. In fact, when I moved in, the manager that was in Indiana, he gave me his apartment. So you can have an apartment manager saying you stay in there, but you don't have to be licensed as a realtor renting the property. But to make a long story short, Freeman is aware of this. In the last week or two, they've changed all their operations around. They got people in there 24 hours a day. But my complaint is not with you guys, it's with the regulators. I want the regulators to force them to do what they're supposed to be doing. That includes the state's attorney's office. I filed these complaints. But through your legal counsel or your corporate counsel, your records will show that when they were called out, when it was an emergency, fire or whatever, people stuck in an elevator, there was no property manager available. There was a maintenance person available on duty, but as far as a 24-hour on-property, on-site residence, there isn't. So that's my claim to the state. The state will look into the claim. I was going to file a request for freedom of information, but I'm going to ask corporate counsel to block it if the state is going to investigate it, or if not, I would ask the media to look into what I'm saying. But I do not want to use this format in this context to come up here and to preach what legal issues, because it'll become a circus or a show for others to do the same. That is why I'm requesting that you put a block on all the fire calls, transactions that was recorded in that apartment complex until, if the state agency would look at the records. That's the only thing I'm asking. But they need to be shut down because they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And I have filed complaints, and they know it. So that's all I've got to say.
If you could stay there, Alderwoman Purchase would like to say something.
Yes, I will also speak offline with Corporation Counsel because I know that he came out with me to speak to you all, and maybe it's time to do an update. But I would just caution you because, yeah, it's easy to shut down the building. We see the hotel shut down.
I mean, it's not shut down. The regulators has the authority to shut down an operation if they're not following state guidelines and regulations. They can appoint someone interim to go in there and take control of it.
I've received 5 text messages about the recent transition with management being there 24/7, and I still urge the people who text me to, if the elevator stop, anything goes wrong, please text me because we got Chief Taylor in the back.
But your city has the records, who was there, what they contacted. I know that for a fact. And that's open to public knowledge. But I don't want this city council to be used as a circus for people to come in here to do their legal bidding and create a problem with records. I don't want that.
I will speak to Corporation Counsel offline and then see what
But if he wants it, I can't file a freedom request.
I will speak to Corporation Counsel
Thank you.
offline and see what we can do and
Thank
see
you,
about
but I'm
coming
very
over.
upset and disappointed, but you guys have been wonderful. This city does not need to be held hostage to out-of-state landlords. And the city council needs to get it under control because it's a magnet. If you can't control what's out of town, and it's not you guys have done all you can, but it's the regulators that need to control it. The state attorney's office need to shut them down.
Thank you.
Bree Roberts,
I don't think she's here.
Roy Walton. Okay. Robert Frazier.
Ooh, Mr. Frazier, you stuck around. It's 8:30.
Stayed late today.
You didn't want to miss this moment.
Good evening. I believe wholeheartedly that there is only one race, and that's called the human race. What we have is many different cultures and many different ways that human beings are raised. Many different beliefs, including religions or food they eat or understandings. So for sure, we have some major differences. Ultimately, common sense is not so common anymore. This causes a lot of friction, a lot of misunderstanding, and racism is an easy fallback. But the reality is that many people don't understand the different cultures. People try to guess about what different cultures do, but this frequently causes humans to push the racist button. The truth is, it is very expensive to be poor. Some of you know that. A lot of you may not know that. But it is truly very, very, very expensive to be poor. It's one of the reasons why CSA Laundry Program has taken off like a jet, and we service so many people. The unfortunate thing about being poor is that it's designed that way to keep parts of our community down and make it absolutely sure that they can't get up. That, to me, is unhuman. Some of the things that we talked about tonight are great ideas. We don't have 20 years. What I can control is my attitude and my effort. Yes, as the executive director of CSA, we need donations to continue to serve the people. Equally important is resources and an endorsement. And I want to spend rest of my time to talk about what an endorsement means to me and what it should mean to anybody. As I listen to all of the different ideas or try to get things going on the east side, which is definitely a disinvested area, definitely. It is desolate, it's crumbling because nobody wants to invest there. Yes, there's businesses such as ours that are on the east side doing great work, but the whole idea of an investment, of an endorsement is that you understand what we're trying to do. And at least the very least thing that you can do is say, for or not, the program that you are doing is helping our city. I opened the door open for everybody to come in and take a look and see what was going on. Very few took advantage of that. Most people are aware of what the program is doing and how well it's helping people. But I find it very odd that we can't get an endorsement. See, what you don't understand is this. Whether you agree with the program or not, it's working. But your constituents look at you for your approval. So if you just engage and say, hey, great program, it is helping all constituents from each part of the city. If you just, that's called an endorsement to me. That you at least agree that we are making an impact. You agree that we're trying to change the narrative. You agree that we're trying to lift people up to believe in themselves. On top of that, we need a lot more things. We need a lot more jobs. We need a lot more of everything. But we can start here. So, an endorsement, at least we can get that. That doesn't cost you a dime. It just costs your opinion. To talk for months and years, weeks and days and not hear anything is demoralizing. To come up here and talk to people and pour my heart out and to pour out what we're doing for the community, and all I get is a stare. It's just, to me, I know we can do better. So if it's something that we're doing wrong, let me know. If it's something that I'm doing right, let me know, so that we can go forward to doing something right for this community to move the narrative, to change the narrative, to get people involved, get people motivated. This is a beautiful city. Give us an opportunity to do better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The chair entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Aye.
No, that's the vibe. That's the rule. I said, y'all